580 Sports Talk coming to you on a I Can't Catch a Pass Tuesday. Jake LeBon, Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, all with you here on this Tuesday as we will recap the game last night at One Arrowhead Drive and Arrowhead Stadium as the Chiefs fall to the Philadelphia Eagles. We will get to plenty of discussion today on the game. Yesterday, offense, defense, special teams, coaching. We'll get to all of that. We'll hear from the coordinators.
Another drop pass.
No, actually, that wasn't. That was a bad turnover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I know they get confusing with the drop passes and the turnovers. I can understand why you would think that would have been a drop pass, but no, actually, that was another turnover. In the red zone, mind you. In the red zone. So we're going to hear from Matt Nagy in the spin zone that he's going to put together. We're also going to hear from...
Somewhere a Bears fan just cringed.
Yeah. We're going to hear from Spags, who did his thing. And we will hear from Michael Swain, talking all things KU. Got headlines, what is wrong with you? Random question Tuesday. All of that coming up today here on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Chiefs fans, let me know your thoughts. Let us know on our text line. It's easy to get in touch with us. You go to 785-272-9429. Very simple. You're going to want to know that number, too, because we're giving away our last pair of K-State football tickets today.
Wow.
You want to know why?
Because it is the final game of the regular season.
That is correct, and we do not have tickets to the bowl game.
Or the Big 12 championship game. Not out of it yet.
We won't have tickets.
We won't have tickets to it, but they're not out of it to play in that game yet.
Yeah.
Not technically.
Yeah. Technically.
What the hell?
That was a movie quote. But we will give away tickets, though.
We will. Want to hear a fun fact? It's not fun. Well, it's fun for some people, not for others. Kevin McCullough has as many...
Where did this come from?
You're about to find out.
Let him cook.
He has as many college basketball triple-doubles in his last two games as Marquez Valdes-Scantling has catches in his last two games.
And that would have been true even before last night.
Yes, it would have been.
Because Marquez Valdes-Scantling did not catch a pass last night.
I was going to
Did he drop any passes last night?
Just a couple. One significant one. I was going to give you a hard time because your wild card pick for the week was 17.5 receiving yards for MVS.
It was a good pick. You got to catch it.
He had a chance.
You got to catch it.
I, however, put real legal American currency on Noah Gray to have over 12.5 receiving yards. And he also didn't have a catch.
Well, he didn't even get a target, did he?
I don't believe so.
Might have had one.
He was on the field for like 4 snaps.
Well, you can let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line. You can go to our YouTube stream as well, youtube.com, 580 Sports Talk. Let us know your opinions on our text line and our YouTube stream. It's very easy to recap this game today. The question is it fixable? I think you can improve your hands as a wide receiver, but so much. It's kind of like trying to get faster, Can you get faster? Yes, you can.
There are ways.
Are you going to get to the speed of other people that maybe you desire to? No, you're probably not. Okay, that's just the way it works, right? Even somebody as fast as Trent McDuffie can work and work and work, and he'll never be the speed of Tyreek Hill.
That's true.
It's just the way it is. So is this issue fixable? And to determine that, you have to answer this question. Do the Chiefs wide receivers have the yips? If you think they've got the yips, then it is fixable. And the yips are mental. It is no question about it. A lot of times you hear the yips in terms of golf, right? You got the chipping yips where you just, you get over it and then your hands start to just shake a little bit and you don't know what to do, or you get over the putter and you look like you don't know what to do. You're swinging it back and forth. I mean, it looks absolutely terrible. And you have the yips, right?
I think of Chuck Knobloch.
Chuck, perfect example in a different sport. You got the yips, right? If you have the yips, then you can fix them because there are people who have been fixed. But Chuck Knobloch in this situation, once he got the yips, boy, he struggled. By the way, that's royal. Great, Chuck Knobloch. I think right now this is a mental issue for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because what's happening now, this is such a big deal, dropping passes as the wide receiving unit, that instead of just going out there and playing, they are thinking about dropping a pass. That is the problem right now for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not separation. It's not getting open. They're open. MVS was open multiple times. One, dropped the game-winning touchdown. Justin Watson was open multiple times. Mm-hmm. He had 3 drops in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce dropped a couple passes in the game, and I'm not counting the turnover there. They're getting open. It's now becoming an issue of, are they getting open to the tune of what you'd like for them to do? No, they're not. But they were open enough yesterday to whereas all you have to do is catch the football, mm-hmm. and a lot of issues are going to be solved. But is it fixable as a wide receiver issue to catch the football? Get on the jugs machines. You can take as many jugs machines, catching it all the time, all you want. That ain't the same as in the game, under the lights, when the pressure's going, and MVS is running butt naked open down the middle of the field. And for some reason, instead of just running to the ball, he decides to fall to the ground while trying to catch it. Never understood that one. Speaking as a wide receiver, you literally could just ran underneath it, but he decided to, just fall on the ground. That's the issue that I don't know if it can be fixed. There is another issue that can 1000% be fixed. And it is emphasis. It is fundamentals. And that's the turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers are a problem for this team. They have 19 turnovers this year. They've also had their bye week. That's 2 away from the league leading Raiders and Commanders, who have 21.
Another way to look at the turnover problem is, and there's other variables you factor in here, but the Chiefs have maybe the best defense in the NFL, arguably the best defense in the NFL, and they are still -5 in turnover margin.
And the difference is entirely interceptions too. The fumbles are dead even. And, you talk about fumble luck a lot of times. Like, how different does last night's game look if Trent McDuffie stripping Jalen Hurts doesn't come right back to Hurts, doesn't fall right at Hurts' feet and give him the chance to pick it up? What if it goes through his legs, goes to a Chief player? Chiefs have short field there. They get 7 instead of 3. It's 21-7 at halftime. It's a very different game.
That was a heck of a pickup by Hurts.
It was.
That rascal up by one hand.
Fumble luck is real, but it's kind of leveled out for the Chiefs this year, where they've recovered the same number as they have lost. So it's the interceptions that have been the difference. And it's strange, as good as this secondary has been, that they're not picking more passes off, but that's where it stands. But you said 19 turnovers.
19 turnovers.
We're through 10 games.
Yeah.
Do you know how many turnovers the 2021 Chiefs had in their first 10 games?
4?
2021?
2021. This is the team that lost to Cincinnati in the championship game.
I bet it's a similar number because that team had problems with giving the ball away too.
It's not just a similar number, it's a higher number. They had 20 turnovers in their first 10 games that year.
No kidding.
And you know how many times they turned it over down the stretch in their final 7 games that year? 5.
And that's where that is a fixable issue.
Yes.
It is just simply fundamentals.
Especially when it's your best play. When your best players make mistakes, because you can look at last night and say that 2 of the most costly plays in the game were the Chiefs' 2 best offensive players making plays they don't normally make. On the Mahomes interception, give credit to Kevin Byard for a good break on the ball, but that throw's got to be in a better spot. It's not a great throw there by Mahomes. It gave it a chance to be intercepted, and Byard made the play.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes can make a better throw there. He can throw the ball a little further to the outside, lead Watson a little bit more toward the pylon, and then it's not interceptable, and it's probably a touchdown. So Mahomes made a bad play there, but the defender also had to make a good play. Still, that's Mahomes. That's your best guy. Your next best guy, Travis Kelce, fumbling the ball. Not a common problem for him. It's not that he's never fumbled, but it's not something that you expect Travis Kelce to do, especially in that spot on the field. His ball security in those areas is usually really sound. When it's your two best guys who come up short, who make critical mistakes, I think it's very easy to look at those and say, that's probably not going to happen on a week in, week out basis. That's probably something that's going to get better. The problem the Chiefs have right now is that they're not good enough everywhere else on offense to overcome mistakes by their best guys. The best guys have to be perfect. Mahomes can't make a mistake. And he is a great, great player, but he ain't God. He's going to make mistakes. Mistakes happen. And if you don't have good enough supporting cast talent to make those mistakes hurt less, then you end up in a scenario like last night where there was no overcoming those two critical red zone mistakes by your best guys. But like you're saying, the bright side of that is you don't expect that those things are going to continue.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if that's true. Like, you guys have told me, hey, this offense is going to get better throughout the course of the year. Through 10 games, this offense has been the exact same from week 1 to week 10. At some point in time, this is who the Chiefs are. Now, you've put together a terrific point that, hey, 2 years ago, they had 20 turnovers. At the end of the year, they had 5 turnovers. Turnovers, to me, are emphasis, are, fundamentals, that type of thing. But they didn't have the other problem that they've got, which is right now they can't catch passes. They literally can't. And that, to me, is not as easily fixable as the turnovers, because through 10 games, they are who they are through 10 games. They are a wide receiver unit that at times can't get open, and then at times they drop passes. They have 27 dropped passes through 10 games, and that leads the NFL, and they've also had a bye week. Some teams are going into their bye week this week have played one more game than the Chiefs. And honestly, that to me is a bigger issue.
Yeah,
I think the turnovers can be fickle, and some of that I do wonder is, Mahomes throwing interceptions right now. Is it because of that? I wonder if he floated that ball because he's going, I don't know if we can catch the damn thing.
Yeah, I think quarterbacks all the time, they lead themselves into more mistakes because they are trying to compensate for, what the guys around them are or aren't doing. And it's not always turnovers that manifests itself in. Sorry to use a comparison to the Packers like I often do, but I think in 2018, the Packers were not good. They a bad team. Rodgers was kind of banged up, but he finished the year with 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And you think he was incredible at not turning the ball over because the guys around him, other than Devontae Adams, just weren't very good. But that's not really telling the whole story because he also took a ton of sacks. He also led the NFL in throwaways. He, by miles, led the NFL in throwaways on third down. So you were still giving away possessions. It was just a different way of doing it. And part of that is because Aaron Rodgers likes to throw little tantrums when things don't go right for him with his teammates. But, other guys weren't picking up their slack. He was then performing in a different way that he had never performed before. That hampered the offense. I think it's very likely, in fact, that Mahomes is doing the same thing, that you're trying to throw because that's not the first time we've seen him do that little lollipop throw thing and have it get picked off this year. I think it is trying to make a play, almost like forcing your guy to make a play. There's no way you can drop this ball that is going to softly fall into your hands.
Yes.
But by doing that, you're putting the ball in harm's way because if you don't throw it to the absolute 100% perfect spot, it's going to get knocked away or it's going to get picked off.
Particularly when the targeting question is Justin Watson, where we've seen him make those deep ball catches or those the throw that Mahomes made against the blitz to the corner on a 3rd and long, to the sideline to Watson, that perfectly placed over the shoulder ball. We've seen Watson make those catches. Watson had 2 critical drops last night. One was on a slant 3rd and 4. It was a rocket from Mahomes.
You got to catch it though.
Yes. No, I'm not excusing Watson here. I'm saying that's the kind of throw that Watson dropped. And then Watson dropped the ball on 4th and 25. And I know that there was coverage in the area and that's not an easy catch, but the hands are up there and it goes through his hands. And
by the way, that is an unbelievable pass by Mahomes.
So was the one to MVS. It was he could not have handed the ball to him better.
To me, the throw to Watson there at the end, 4th and 25
on the line,
and he delivers an absolute dart.
Oh, it's a seed
right to him. That to me is a tougher throw than what he did to MVS. Like, honest to God, that drop by, and that is I expect, your
average receiver to make the play.
I expect a high schooler to make that catch. Like, I expect Titan Osborne for Washburn Rural to catch that pass.
He's a heck of a player.
Like, that throw there, it's completed to, generic people.
I expect MVS to make that catch 9 times out of 10. At least 9 times out of 10.
I'm going to go like 7 out of 10.
I think that brings me to what I think is the problem, and it's sort of the Occam's razor thing. Sometimes the best explanation is the simplest one. I just don't think this is a talented group. Like, I like Rashee Rice a lot. I really like his projections. I think he's had a nice year. I would have liked to have seen him on
Why did they get him the damn ball more?
Why was he not on the field on 4th and 25? I don't know.
See,
I like Rice, though.
That one doesn't bug me because it's 4th and 25. What bugs
you
me
need bigger, faster targets for 4th and 25 because the throw is probably going to be what it ended up being. So you got to throw it past the sticks.
The problem, though, is what happened at the first drive or second drive of the game to the end of the game where, hey, getting it to Rashee Rice worked.
Right.
Like, it really did work.
Right. And again, I like him, but I mean, look at the rest of this group. We all know what McCole Hardman is. We know his limitations. We know what he can do and certainly what he can't do. I'm just reading down the roster right now. Sky Moore has not worked out. He has not been good since he was drafted.
Hardman, to me, I'm not upset at Hardman because
I'm not upset with him. I'm just saying the general talent level.
Yeah.
Was it Eric Eager who said this? It was an old tweet actually that got pulled up yesterday, but he said the Chiefs don't need a wide receiver 1. The Chiefs need depth. They don't have any. Like, these are guys who would be like maybe a 3rd receiver or probably a 4th receiver on most teams in the NFL.
There's a defined skill set for all of them. Like, McCole Hardman is who he is, and Sky Moore is who he is, and Rashee Rice right now as a rookie has things that he does well, and Justin Watson has things that he does well. And when you maximize the talents of the wide receiver group, you know what it looks like? It looks like the Chiefs' first touchdown drive last night, because what happened there? Kadarius Toney, gadget player, had a 14-yard run out of the backfield, caught a slant, quick in-breaking route, caught a slant for a first down, kept the drive alive. McCole Hardman got involved in a bubble screen. Rashee Rice got involved with a quick out and making things happen after the catch. When the Chiefs use these wide receivers the way they are intended to be used, the results are pretty excellent. The thing that I think the Chiefs have done is try to wish cast this group into being something that it's not. And what that is like a downfield threat. Like, they're going to run these plays that take time to develop, and they're going to pop open against coverage, the deep overs and those routes that have been so successful for the Chiefs over the years. That is not what works for this group. And part of the reason it doesn't work for this group is because the safety valve is being double teamed and beaten the hell out of. And also he's 34 years old.
To me, the two biggest issues on the offense are 2 guys. It's not the offensive line. They're gonna have their problems, right? The Eagles have a good pass rush. They got some holding calls. That's gonna happen. Everybody has holding calls against the Eagles. That's gonna happen, okay? Travis Kelce trying to do his thing. The running game was very, very good. And Andy Reid actually did run it a little bit. We all think Rashee Rice is having a good year for a rookie, right? Justin Watson is a solid number 3. He really, really is. Your problem for this team right now is MVS is bad and Sky Moore is even worse. Like that's the issue right now.
And you've invested a lot in those guys.
That's the issue. It's those two guys because they still get the majority of the snaps. MVS got a bunch of them last night. Sky Moore's out there getting his cardio in. Those two guys don't bring anything to the table right now.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. When you look at it, your numbers, 3 and 4 wide receiver, like Justin Watson got targeted 11 times in the most important game. That tells you
more than doubled his career high.
That tells you everything you need to know right now about MVS and Sky Moore. Kadarius Toney still can't run a route. I mean, they're putting him in the backfield to give him touches. That says everything.
And they should. That works.
Yeah.
Like, use these guys as they are intended to be used. Use as intended. Apply head on directly to the forehead.
But at some point, don't you need a guy who you can trust that isn't Travis Kelce? Because you're right. Like, you've got it. Like, if that's what works for Toney and you want to get him on the field, use him that way. I totally agree.
The problem is the guy that Mahomes trusts the most is Justin Watson.
Which I think is
that's the problem.
Yes, that is a problem. Yes, because last year that guy was Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yep.
And Juju might be past it now. Like the injuries that he suffered last year may have accumulated to the point where he might just be completely shot at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
But last year, he was a reliable threat. He was reliable. Defenses had to know where he was. Defenses had to account for him, and he could make that third down catch. He could work the dirty areas in the middle of the field like we've talked about, and the Chiefs have missed that. Like, at the same time, Juju wasn't an elite wide receiver.
No.
The idea that, the Chiefs are this because they don't have a wide receiver number 1. They won an AFC championship game. Bill Barnwell pointed this out on Twitter last night from ESPN. They won an AFC championship game last year. In the second half, the wide receivers were Marcus Kemp and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and they won that game anyway. So you can win. Like, the question that people ask, can the Chiefs win a Super Bowl with these wide receivers? Yes, absolutely. They can win a Super Bowl with these wide receivers. Unequivocally, yes. But it's a little tougher than you'd like it to be because there's a ceiling for this group that isn't very high, and there's a floor for it that we've seen now cost them 2 games at home this season.
From the text line, please don't blame it all on the receivers and tight ends. Patrick threw the ball too hard many times, plus it was wet and chilly.
It's the NFL, man.
Yeah, you got to catch a ball.
If Justin Watson's family is listening to the program, then
sorry.
Hello to them.
This is professional football.
It was wet and chilly for Devontae Smith when he made that catch to set up the winning touchdown.
No, I really do wish that every single person could put on a pair of wide receiver gloves that the NFL uses. And then I would have somebody throw a football to you and you go, holy hell, it's like Velcro almost.
Mm-hmm.
Velcro.
Yeah.
It's incredible at how
sticky
they are. And they get a new pair of gloves every game, maybe even every half, to be honest with you. It is incredible. How easy it is to catch a football with those things.
I will say this. It is a pencil-thin silver lining, but it is one nonetheless. Based on previous experience, when there's a clear weakness for a Super Bowl contending Chiefs team that needs to be addressed urgently in the offseason, the Chiefs spend a ton of capital and both like financial and draft pick-wise on that needed spot. We're going to see the most exciting wide receiver offseason ever in Kansas City. It's going to be awesome.
We will break down what the game plan coming into this year, but also at the trade deadline. So that's something to keep in mind. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not. We will talk about the positive. I'm going to go kind of Matt Nagy on you coming up. There is some positives to what occurred last night. And I'm going to explain to that next. All right, it's time for I guess you could call it the good old spin zone. If you
we're
will.
gonna pump sunshine over here.
We're
Gonna be Chiefs homers.
We're gonna get it done here. Here is the positive. All right, who's the best team in the NFC?
The Philadelphia Eagles.
The Eagles.
Okay, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Best team in the NFL.
Best team in the NFL. The Eagles needed to have the Chiefs drop 7 passes, 8 passes.
The broadcast said 5, but everybody counts drops differently.
Yeah. And then turned it over twice in the red zone. Right?
Mhm.
And they only won by 4. That is the positive spin, is that the Eagles, who are the best team in the NFL, needed to have a lot occur for them to win against the Chiefs. They needed to have a big play at the end of the game. They needed a lot to occur in order to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Chiefs don't, if you want to count, if they catch one of those passes, if MVS catches that, the Chiefs probably win the game. If Travis Kelce doesn't fumble it, the Chiefs probably win the game. There's a lot of things that occur if the Chiefs actually do it, they will end up winning the game. That to me is something that you can turn on a positive side of things, is that this Eagle team also was one of the best run defensive units in the NFL. And the Chiefs absolutely shredded them. Absolutely shredded them.
I think that was the best thing overall to take away from last night, is that I think people would probably say the Eagles are one of, if not the best teams in the trenches in the NFL, both offensively with that great offensive line they have, and defensively with all those war daddies they got in the trenches. And the Chiefs were much better in the trenches than the Eagles, both sides last night. They were better up front. That's a big deal. Especially, we've given the Chiefs offensive line a lot of hell. And I know the PFF said that Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor were the worst players on the field for the Chiefs, along with MVS last night. Like, I know that's what PFF says. But I watched the game, and the Chiefs were better than Philadelphia up front, both offensively and defensively, for the better part of 60 minutes.
More like pathetic football focus.
Got them.
They're gonna have their mistakes. They are. It's part of
nobody plays a perfect game, but
who they are.
You got to be a lot closer to perfect than the Chiefs were to beat a team as good as the Eagles. And that, like, Dan Orlovsky's taken some heat on Twitter because I think he said, I don't remember what ESPN program he went on and said it earlier today, that he felt like the Chiefs outplayed the Eagles for 60 minutes. And if not for the mistakes, that the Eagles would not have won. And I'm struggling to find the lie. I'm struggling to find where Dan Orlovsky is wrong. Mm-hmm. The biggest reason the Eagles won that football game is because they didn't make, and there's value in not making mistakes. That's why the Denver Broncos are on a winning streak. They haven't made a mistake for 4 games, and the teams they are playing have made a bunch. So there's value in that. And on a single game basis, yes, you make fewer mistakes than the other guys, you're going to beat them. But all of the other stuff, like if you scouted the box, if you just look at the box score from last night, you would think, man, Chiefs kicked their ass.
The Eagles made one more play on offense, and that was the long pass to Devonta Smith. That was it. That was the game, because the Chiefs had a chance. They just didn't catch the long pass to MVS. And this is where I kind of look at as through Chiefs colored glasses, because I'm a Chiefs fan, obviously. But it's nice to see that at least somebody, surprised it's Dan Orlovsky, because some of his opinions are kind of out there. But you got, Aikman at the end of the game. Let's give the defense some credit here. For what? Letting them open so wide open that they dropped a pass? Like, the Eagles made one good defensive play yesterday, and that was the terrific punch when Travis Kelce caught the pass.
The interception was a good play by Byard. A good break on
To
the
me,
ball.
that's more on Mahomes because
it's on both guys.
He lollipopped that in there. That one is more on Mahomes
They
than
did force the
Byard.
They forced the grounding at the end of the game. That was a big play.
The overall point, though, I'm trying to make here is, oh, hey, terrific job, defensive player here. You let them. They ran it all over them. If the Chiefs could have just caught it, what are you going to say? And from CBS Sports, the Eagles' defense shone brightest on the night in the second half. Why?
Because it's expectations.
Like that to me, and that's where I look at it. I'm looking at it through Chiefs colored glasses here. I thought the Eagles didn't win the game. The Chiefs lost the game. Much like the Lions game.
Mm-hmm.
The very first game of the year. The Chiefs, the Lions did not win that game. The Chiefs lost that game because they made mistakes. But like we have said time and time again, in basketball, you can shoot it 60% from the field and 50% from deep. You can shoot it better than the opposing team. You can rebound it better. But if you turn it over and you give up easy buckets and layups to the opposing team, you're going to lose. You are going to lose. And in this situation, the two turnovers, for me, one of them was on Mahomes. The other one, to me, turnovers are more about the offense than it is about the defense. That's maybe I'm an offensive guy. This is the position I played. But if you hold on to the damn ball, no matter what occurs, they're not getting it out. And that's what is frustrating to me about all of these turnovers that they've had. But I'm still, right now, if you're going to tell me the issues that the Kansas City Chiefs had, let's go through here, we need to get a break and we'll get a quick timeout. If you look at the biggest issues for all of the AFC contenders, the Chiefs issue is the most correctable because it's honestly not a Jimmy's and Joe's. It's a self-inflicted situation. That's what it is. We'll get a quick timeout. We got a lot more to get to coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. hear from Steve Spagnuolo and Matt Nagy coming up in the 3 o'clock hour after our Random Question Tuesday. I do want to mention, because we've talked a lot about how people are not getting the job done, but the Chiefs defense really did play very, very well outside of honestly one play. The Chiefs defense was very, very good against the run. A couple screen passes got him. You give up 21 points. And here's what.
Remember when the Chiefs used to run screen passes to the running back?
Yeah, that was. Remember Jet McKinnon scored a touchdown in what, like 8 straight games last year?
Yeah, I do remember that.
That was wild.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
You know what? I'm sorry to derail your point immediately. Like, Isaiah Pacheco can catch the ball.
Yeah.
We know Jerick McKinnon can catch the ball.
Yeah.
In theory, Clyde Edwards-Helaire can catch the ball. I saw him a little bit last night. Y'all see him run for positive yardage?
Yeah. He had a first down run.
He got to the edge.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
But, like, because I know you mentioned this on the post-game stream on YouTube yesterday. By the way, go check it out at our 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. It's the headline video right now. You don't even have to search for it. It's right at the top. It doesn't really make sense. Like, to me, if you're saying, wow, our wide receivers cannot catch the ball and only one of them knows how to separate. Wow, what can we do to fix this? I guess nothing. Well, you could throw to your other tight ends more. You could throw to your running backs more.
They did throw it to McKinnon, and he almost broke it.
Yes!
Yeah, he got tripped up just by his shoestrings. But the Chiefs defense is so good. The Eagles had essentially 3 drives, and this is where, the Chiefs defense is doing everything and saying everything the right way. Also, Mahomes is saying everything the right way. It's we. He's never going to throw anybody under the bus, even though his body language says these dudes stink. He will never do that. And you got to respect Mahomes for doing that. The defense is doing the same thing. Chris Jones, we got to do a better job. We got to stop him. Can't give up 21 points. Got to give up 17, that type of thing. But I don't know if you guys caught this, but the Chiefs defense got another stop. And they've zeroed in on Drew Tranquill. And Drew Tranquill's got down on one knee because he's tired, because he's been whooping ass all day. And he says, come on, offense. Come on, one time. He's telling the Chiefs offense one time, just one time, because the Chiefs had 6 chances in this game to end it. 6 times. When they were up 17-7, they had 2 chances to go up 24-7. 24-7, game's over. The game is over because then the Chiefs just hand it off to Pacheco and they're running it. The game's over. Then the Chiefs had 2 more chances when it was 17-14. Yep. You have 2 more chances then. Okay, now you got 4 chances. They actually had a 5th chance. No, beg your pardon. Then they had 2 chances at the end of the game to win it. They had 6 chances to win a game, and they didn't do it. If you are a defense and you give any offense 6 opportunities just to get a field goal, you're doing your job. And they got a great pass rush. The secondary was unbelievable. The way L'Jarius Sneed is playing right now, it's almost to the point where how do you let the guy go?
Yeah.
Because he has locked up Tyreek Hill. He has locked up A.J. Brown. Was so frustrated. He was about ready to fight, Jalen Hurts on the sideline because of what L'Jarius Sneed was doing to him. Like, he was very, they had one bad play. That's how bad the offense was, is when you allow one bad play by the Chiefs defense, one, and that ends up losing you the game.
I don't even think it was that bad of a play.
No, and it wasn't. It was a really good throw over the top,
to a really good receiver.
Yeah, to the former Heisman Trophy winner.
And and you got they got the matchup they wanted there with how they ran that route. They got Devontae Smith on a safety 1-on-1, and
that's good coaching.
Yeah,
that's good offense, man.
It's kind of like the 3rd and 5 touchdown run that Swift had. Like, sometimes you throw rock and the other guy throws paper and you lose. And that can happen. Like, as good a game as Steve Spagnuolo called, there were still some times that paper covered rock. And you have to expect that because the Eagles are good. Like, we're not talking about this game like they went out and lost to the Panthers or somebody.
The Broncos.
Or the Broncos, who I still think are sorry. Like, they lost to the best team in the NFL. A team that, as of right now, at some sports books, is still the co-favorite to win the Super Bowl with the 49ers and, yes, the Chiefs.
If you were to take a look at the Super Bowl contenders in the AFC, okay? The Chiefs' issue are self-inflicted. They are turnovers. They are, and that's why, to me, it's not as much of getting open as just catching the ball. But you look at the Ravens. The Ravens right now, what would you rather have? The Chiefs' issues or the Ravens' issues? I'd rather have the Chiefs' issues. Don't turn the ball over. You're going to win every. If the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, they're undefeated right now. If the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, they will win every single game the rest of this year. And I'm talking about in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. It all comes down to turnovers for the Kansas City Chiefs. But the Ravens, without Mark Andrews, they would you rather have, don't turn it over, or our literally best playmakers potentially done for the year? I don't know if Andrews is completely done for the year yet. We'll have to.
It said today he's having surgery. Harbaugh indicated yesterday maybe he could come back late in the year. Today, I think it was Rappaport said they'd have to make a deep playoff run for him to return.
You know, like, okay, you look at the Dolphins, their issues. You look at literally who else is there? The Bills? Like, and the Bills, it might be the 7th seed. Are you worried about Cleveland? Are you worried about Houston? Are you worried about Jacksonville?
No,
like the Chiefs' issues right now, and the best part about it is, who did you lose to? An NFC team.
Yeah, you still got tiebreakers when it comes to seeding.
If you're going to lose games, you want to lose to the teams in the other conference. They haven't lost. They've lost one game in the AFC. So there's a little bit more sunshine than maybe people think right now when you wake up and you go, because I think the reason why Chiefs fans are so, frustrated is because it's such a simple task that they're not doing.
Well, I think it also went from being easy to not being easy, if we're being completely honest. Like, offense has been easy for the last 5 years. And when things have been bad, it's been very easy to point to the defense. It is easier to be like passive about a bad defense when your stars are all on offense than it is when your unit with all the stars is struggling and the defense is playing well. I really do just believe that, not from like a football player perspective, but from us and outside.
Do they have more stars on offense or more stars on defense? I think you could argue on defense right now.
The Eagles?
No, the Chiefs.
No.
Oh, the Chiefs?
You could have 11 Pro Bowlers on the defense. They were, well, no, because Mahomes and Kelce are on the offense.
So they got two guys.
But those two are so much bigger than...
Well, they're still only two dudes. I'm talking like, if you look at...
What do you mean by star? Do you mean like a blue chip player or a popular player?
Well, I think the Chiefs defense right now has got at least three.
Three of which?
Blue chip talent
Okay.
now.
All right. Like, if that's what we're talking about,
right
then
now, Chris Jones is still playing at an all-pro level.
He was great in the first half
of
the
year.
Trent McDuffie's playing at an all-pro level.
So is L'Jarius Sneed.
You can't find another cornerback duo better than those two. And the fact that they both sacked the quarterback. Like, that's what's
I think Reed has played really well for most of the season.
Yeah.
The linebackers are banged up, but they've been really good.
And prior to that, Nick Bolton, to me, was playing at a blue chip type of level. I mean,
Karlaftis has been really good.
Dana played well. Like, the whole defense played well yesterday, outside of one situation.
How about this? This is from Brandon Kiley, who does sports talk in St. Louis. He's a Arrowhead Pride podcaster as well. Last night, A.J. Brown had one catch for 8 yards. He was targeted 4 times. That's the second time in his entire career that he's at under 10 yards. Second time in his whole career. In the last 7...
Was his rookie year that he got?
Probably. I can look it up. But yeah, in his last 7 games, had over 65 yards in each of them. He had one catch last night for 8 yards. That's just being erased completely.
And you want to know what he didn't do? I am talking about L'Jarius Sneed.
Drop a pass.
No, he didn't do the seatbelt thing. Thank you for that. It's overplayed right now.
I thought when
He could have done that. That would have been justifiable.
yeah.
It's the cool thing. I used to think they were holstering a sword.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I was like, oh, sword fighting. Dope.
I want a wide receiver. Like, I want the next time the Bucks play the Saints and Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans get in a fight, because they always do, I want Mike Evans to catch a touchdown and then unbuckle. That's what I want him to do.
Yeah,
because
we need to see.
That ends the celebration. Like, shoot.
Shoot. Go up right to him. Like Antoine Winfield did it to Tyreek Hill. Go up to me like, push the button.
Now,
is
it one of those electric ones? You have to wait for it to slide up so you can remove, or you pop right up?
I think we need to just update it. Like, if you're a defensive back, I think we need to do like the roller coaster harness next. Like, tuck it on down. Yeah,
I like that. You're locked down.
Yeah, you gotta update. Like the guys do the gritty. They've updated it.
How about pantomime? Like you say, "Oh, I've got you in a box," and they can do like hand motions to be like, "Oh, you're in a box. You're in the box with me."
The next wide receiver needs to do
pantomime.
Push the button, take it off, and just arm stretch.
Open the car door.
Look how free I am right now. Oh, I'm so sick of that. My gosh.
Park the car. Park in the car. Unbuckling the seatbelt.
DBs make me
put it in park.
They make me want to vomit. Oh my gosh. Coming up next, bad evaluation or is it bad execution? We'll get to that next. hour number 2 here on this Tuesday. Jake LeBon, Brennan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero with you. Thanks for stopping by. Got a random question Tuesday. Then we'll hear from the coordinators. Matt Nagy, Steve Spagnuolo. Hear what Spags has to say about LeJerry Sneed and Trent McDuffie, defensive line. They take on the Raiders this week. Boy, the Chiefs got a tough go of it. They play Monday night, and then you got to go on the road on Sunday. That's tough turnaround.
On the road.
I did see.
Let's get on an airplane.
Yeah.
I did see. And it's not so much getting on the airplane. It's the one less day of, technically 2 less days of prep. But if Andy Reid wins Sunday, he will have tied for the second most wins at Allegiant Stadium.
I believe it.
As coach.
Yeah.
Who's number 1?
It's McDaniels.
Jeez.
Because he's coached there, a bunch. If Andy Reid wins at Allegiant, he will have tied John Gruden for 4 wins at Allegiant.
That's very funny.
That is funny.
I don't know. Obviously the Raiders have a spark, but I'm not super concerned that Aiden O'Connell has much for the Chiefs defense. Now they might just try and pound Josh Jacobs 25 times.
And I'm okay with that. I think the Chiefs will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of they shortened the game against Miami doing that a little bit.
But Miami's defense is not even close to what the Chiefs are.
Yeah, I don't think it's as good. So no, it feels like a get right game for the Chiefs. They love playing the Raiders.
I think the thing that worries you is that Max Crosby is a monster right now, and that's the thing that worries you the most.
Remember when they beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead and then drove their bus in a victory lap around the stadium?
Dude, man, that's some high school stuff there, man.
The most John Gruden thing that has ever happened.
I don't know how you guys feel about this or felt about this at the time. I miss John Gruden on Monday Night Football. Not just like, haha, remember when? No, like I genuinely miss it. Like I love Buck and Aikman, and I'm fine with them being on Monday night, but like the Tirico Gruden booth, that was a moment in time we will never get back, probably because John Gruden used a myriad of slurs in emails to various people around the NFL.
They can't put him back on TV
no
anytime real soon, now that we know what he thinks about.
Nah, Gruden's QB camp going to be on Outkick going forward, but he was just so good on TV.
Gruden's quarterback camp is just Drake May.
Yeah, it was goofy as hell every single time. Like the time he was making the smoothie on air, and he's like pulling out bananas. He's got like protein powder he's pouring in. It was so good.
He was easy to caricature and parody, but all of the great color commentators are easy to parody and caricature.
But like you could tell he enjoyed, like he was clearly into it. Yeah. He was just a complete weirdo. And Tirico is such a good straight man as a play-by-play guy. I miss that booth so much.
Tirico's great. Mike Tirico's very good.
Mike Tirico has a superpower to identify the length of a punt before it is caught.
Yeah, he really does.
Mike Tirico, fantastic. I'm glad he's on Sunday Night Football. We just need to get him with a better color analyst.
John Gruden.
We gotta get Collinsworth out of there. Oh my god!
I need more Spider 2Y banana in my life.
John Gruden. Yeah, the Andy Reid going for win number 4 at Allegiant.
Think he would do TV?
Who?
Andy Reid?
Absolutely not.
Nah, I don't think so either.
Absolutely not.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so. Alrighty. Did the Chiefs miscalculate and have a bad process, or there's a difference between bad process and bad results? But to me, the statement was Patrick Mahomes will elevate everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the belief.
if you get somebody that good, you can pay other people because Mahomes will make them better.
Right.
And that theory is being tested right now because that is what the Kansas City Chiefs did this offseason. They said, we feel like we've got guys who can do it enough and Mahomes will make it work.
Mm-hmm.
We're paying him this amount of money. He will make it work. Well, it turns out that as of right now, the process has not worked out because the Chiefs offense is as bad as it's been under Mahomes. They've gone 3 straight weeks without scoring a point in the second half or a touchdown in the second half. That's a problem. So, through the first 8 weeks of the year, the Chiefs look like they evaluated wrong. To me, the bigger question was, did they evaluate wrong for the second time? Did they double down on it? And what I'm talking about is the trade deadline. Should the Chiefs have done something more at this year's trade deadline and actually been more aggressive at this year's trade deadline? Because they had 8 games to say our offseason process through 8 games has not worked. Do we think, are we willing to risk the future for the now? And that is the biggest question for this year. Is the reason the Chiefs didn't go out and get anybody is because they didn't want to risk any more future draft capital.
They only have 5 picks in next year's draft.
Now, they could have given up a first-round pick or a second-round pick and traded for somebody. But instead, they said, no, we're gonna keep with what we evaluated this offseason, and then we will go forward this coming offseason, just like we always do, making the evaluation then. So did they screw up not once but twice? That to me is something that you can address with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now the process might have been fine. We think Mahomes is going to make it work. We think we can. And to be honest with you, Mahomes has, except for the fact that they are not good enough in terms of, like, Sky Moore just can't get open. Okay. Then you've got MVS who can't catch. Then you've got Rashee Rice, who is a rookie, still learning the system, because there's many of video footage. That's the kind of the nice thing about today's day and age is you got a lot of people who have a lot of time on their hands who can break down film and break down video. There's some compelling evidence right now. Rashee Rice is still super young because he doesn't know when to settle against man and when to go against zone. He doesn't know.
There are nuances.
Yes. And there's a great example. Seth Kaiser, friend of the show, tagged someone who said maybe this is the reason why Rashee Rice is not playing more. And they show him running into defenders because he doesn't know when to sit in his zone and when to stay in his zone. Then you got a picture of Justin Watson who sits in his zone, comes back, and again, he didn't catch the ball yesterday. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Did they make the mistake of, hey, we don't need I don't want to say a difference maker, because I don't know if Juju was a difference maker. Like, to me, a difference maker is an A.J. Brown, a Devonta Smith, a Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, one of those guys. I don't know if you need somebody that level.
I feel like
you need somebody maybe better than what MVS, Sky Moore, a rookie, Justin Watson would be. That middle area. Like, who would you consider a middle area receiver? Was that Juju last year?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is the discussion. This kind of circles back to the discussion that Dan, you and I had a lot during the offseason, which really pertained to the defense more than anything. but it's ceiling raisers versus floor raisers for a roster. Like if you added A.J. Brown to this Chiefs team, you're talking about raising the ceiling because you've got a guy who can, as a wide receiver, take over, change the game, take the top off the defense, do pretty much anything. He's one of the best wide receivers, maybe right now the best in the NFL. That changes your ceiling as a team. Whereas a guy like last year's version of Juju, for example, he might not be the kind of athlete, the kind of receiver, the kind of player that you say, dang, get the ball in his hands and you're going to win because he's going to make something special happen every single time. But like Juju at his worst was still like a competent receiver who you could, throw an 8-yard out to and trust that he's going to get you the first down on 3rd and 6. That is the kind of piece. That's what I was trying to illustrate earlier. I might not have done a good job of it when I mentioned that tweet I saw last night about the Chiefs don't need an elite number 1 true wide receiver 1 player. They need depth. They need just guys who you can say, yeah, I trust he's going to go make a play. Like he might not make the game-changing play.
Can you catch a pass and can you settle in a zone?
But yeah, like who would be sick on this team, to use a former Chief? You know who would be awesome? Jeremy Maclin. Give me a Jeremy Maclin on this team. He's not going to, go put up 1,400 yards in a season, but he can catch somewhere between 40 and 60 passes, get you 800-ish yards, and you just know, like, hey, it's 3rd and 4. Someone's got to make a play. All right, we can throw the ball to Maclin.
Let me say this, that the way that the Chiefs evaluated their wide receivers was predicated on one important thing that we have not brought up yet. They evaluated their wide receivers and said, this is a good enough group because we have the elite of the elite at the tight end position, and his name is Travis Kelce, and he will produce at an elite level for a receiver. He will put up number 1 wide receiver numbers as a tight end. He will be the center of gravity for our passing game. He will be our reliable target on 3rd downs. He will be our red zone guy. He's that guy. And so we can build a wide receiver unit around Travis Kelce being elite. And what we have seen this season is that I believe Travis Kelce is still very good to great, but I think we are starting to see the decline of Travis Kelce. And that's not a knock because it happens to everybody, right? Everybody who's ever played the game goes through the decline phase. And it has started, I think, this season for Travis Kelce. And I'm not going to blame that on any one thing or another or any one musician or another, because my brain is not a moldy tub of Cool Whip. But Travis Kelce is 34 years old. He's been dinged up this season more than we've typically seen him. Like, he'd play through anything, right? Then he hyperextends his knee 2 days before the opener. He can't go. And then he has that sprained ankle in Minnesota. Just those that cost him some snaps. Just those little nagging things are starting to add up a little bit. And the double teams are more effective, and his depth of target is not as deep down the field as it's been.
How much of the double teams, though, are simply the fact that all the other wide receivers stink? Like, it's like, look,
well,
leave them open, we'll double team it.
I think they were double teaming him last year. Let's be honest. They weren't saying, oh, man, Juju's out there. That's the guy we have to bracket. Like, there wasn't any other guy on last year's team that they had to bracket. It was always just, ever since Tyreek Hill left, it has been, we can bracket Travis Kelce. And last year, it didn't matter so much. And this year, it's starting to matter because he looks half a step slower. He's not getting down the field like he used to. Travis Kelce is still a great player. I would still rather have him than any other tight end in the league right now. But he has not performed at the level that he needs to perform at for the rest of the wide receiver group to be elevated in his presence. That, I think, is what they were counting on. Another elite year of Travis Kelce to elevate this group. And what they've gotten instead is a merely excellent year from Travis Kelce. And that hasn't quite been good enough to elevate the rest of the group.
I think both are true. I agree with you because he hasn't looked the same. But also, I think people are doing way more of a focus on Travis Kelce this year because everyone else you don't have to worry about anybody else. Like, I think it's even more so that they're double teaming him, chipping him, doing everything to Travis Kelce because they go, I can I can put my head on my pillow at night if I'm a defensive coordinator, knowing MVS beat me or Sky Moore or Justin Watson beat me instead of Travis Kelce. That's why I was so loud. What was the game that he went off? The Charger game.
Yeah.
Like, take into consideration who the Chargers, defensive play caller is. And he made that very clear this week. Like, that's where and to circle back real quick, should they have made a move at the trade deadline? If you were talking about this year, yes, they should have. Because this was last night we said before the game, the Eagles secondary is not good. They're not. They
haven't played well this year.
They've been torched by Sam Howell twice. Hell, the Giants put up points on them. And the Chiefs couldn't do anything in the game, mainly because they dropped passes.
Yeah, how different if they convert one of those two red zone turnovers, if they take care of it, turn it into points, 24 points. If MVS literally just catches one ball, that's a touchdown. Like that's a touchdown they left on the field. Like we can say, oh, if Mahomes doesn't throw that pick on in the red zone, well, that was first and goal. Like we don't know if the Chiefs are going to actually score a touchdown. I would have liked their chances, but maybe that ends up a field goal. Maybe the Kelce drive ends up a field goal, or maybe Mahomes throws an interception on the next play. Who knows? But the MVS thing, that was a touchdown in his hands. That's all he had to do is close his hands around the football, and that was 6 points. Yep. And they blew that. I want to get back to your first point though too, where you ask like about the evaluation and should the Chiefs have reevaluated at midseason and pivoted at the trade deadline? And my answer to that is still no, because that's not what winning organizations do. Organizations that win, like the Chiefs have won, they don't pull the ripcord 8 weeks in. They don't question their evaluation. They don't question their draft process. They clean up their mistakes when it is prudent to clean up their mistakes and admit their mistakes. But like changing course and giving up all your draft capital in week 8 with the brand new wide receiver core, that would have been so out of character for what this Chiefs front office has been. That's the kind of thing like the Panthers do. That's the kind of thing the Cardinals do. That's the kind of thing losing franchises, losing organizations do, is pull the ripcord that quickly. And that's just not how that's not how we have known the Chiefs to operate.
Well, they're playing the long game. And that's the thing. If you're going to play the long game, you don't do it so you can build assets and accumulate and try to find good players, find the L'Jarius Sneeds in the 4th round, that type of thing. Build it instead of, the quick fix, like the Rams have done the quick fix. Like, hey, we're going to sell all of our parts and go for it.
And there's multiple ways to make it work, because it worked for the Rams. They won. Look at where they have been since then.
Not good. Not good.
You don't think they could use some young talent now, but, generally speaking, most franchises are willing to say, we'll go all in to do it.
Yep.
We will do what it takes. But the Chiefs are in the enviable position where they don't have one shot. They've got many shots because of the coach they have, the roster they have, quarterback, etc. But I agree with Dan's point. I don't think it would have been a prudent decision to change your process. I mean, we had this conversation to a different degree.
And I agree. I'm pointing out, like, this is the question that they needed to ask themselves at the trade deadline. Is this good enough?
I feel like this is a permutation of the conversation we had about KU football last week, going to the Sunflower Showdown, right? Like, you can disagree with not playing Jason Bean because he didn't practice even though he was healthy, but KU has had a system that has turned the whole thing around, and they have stuck with it, and they have stayed principled to that system. The coaching staff specifically has stayed principled to that system. And just because in one instance it might not make the most sense to the outside doesn't mean you change the whole thing. I think it's a very similar principle here for the Chiefs, that what you have done, how you've built the roster, where you've allocated your capital, it has worked. One season where you're going to end up with an uneven roster is not worth flipping the whole thing over.
And there is, as the text line from the 785, it's all remedied if they catch the ball. And they don't turn over the football. Like this is a real simple situation for the Chiefs. Coming up next, we got Random Question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. you got?
All right. Number 1. What is the best song by your favorite band or artist?
Oh, that's too hard to come up with. I got to figure out who's my favorite band.
Okay. Fair enough. We can start there. We can two-part it. What is your favorite band or artist? And then what is their best song?
My favorite band is Queens of the Stone Age. Their best song, that changes as often as I change pants. Like I could give
that's
you
a lot.
Could give you one answer one day, and I could give you another answer the next day. But probably the one I have listened to the most in my life by them is either No One Knows or Tangled Up in Plaid.
Yeah, I can't even give you an answer to that one. Sorry.
Who's your favorite musician?
I don't have a favorite.
Who are some of them?
Taylor Swift,
Steve Winwood.
I just wanted to see her. Rebecca Black. I have
What's
no
your favorite
idea.
Steve Winwood song?
Valerie.
Back in the High Life Again.
There you go.
It's
Okay.
a good one.
Fair enough. The answer for me is Creeping Death by Metallica. That is their best song. They got a lot of good ones, but that's the best
Are
one.
we gonna play Megadeth song or Metallica? Remember when I did that and I got every
Yeah,
one
you
right?
were 7 for 7.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, you were
incredible.
sandbagging us. You
No.
sandbagging son of a gun.
Absolutely not. That is what we call luck as hell. Yeah,
That was good.
yeah, lucky. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for playing, I guess. Sort of. Dan, did you have one?
Yes, I do. What is one thing, or you may have multiple answers to this question, something that you really enjoy that you cannot get your wife to come around on? We're all married here. What is something that you enjoy a great deal and you have endeavored to share with your significant other and just has not clicked for her? She cannot can't get down with it.
Okay, so this is
I got a couple actually.
yeah, I'll think of a full answer, but that did remind me of an image I have saved on my phone. It's a fake video game cover, and it says Donkey Kong Country. Diddy Kong shows his girlfriend pro wrestling, and she's just not really into it. That is the single funniest image I have on my phone. And I'm like, damn, this is me with everyone I dated before I met my wife, who's actually very cool about it. Like, she's sat down and watched full day long, like the 2021 WrestleMania with me. She watched the whole thing. She's very cool about that.
I think it says more about her than anything.
Oh, of course it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one, my wife hates boy humor. So she doesn't like Will Ferrell.
Okay.
She doesn't like Jim Carrey. She doesn't like Dumb and Dumber. She doesn't like any of those movies.
Okay.
Any of those are terrible. She will not like if that comes on. No, it's not happening. Also, I love sandwiches. She hates sandwiches.
What?
Wait,
Yes.
what?
Hates sandwiches.
Who hates sandwiches?
My wife.
Why?
What?
Here's the reason why. When she was playing volleyball in college, every meal that they had before and after volleyball were sandwiches.
Oh, so this is like you and pizza now.
No, but I like pizza, just not between the months of December and March.
Okay.
Like, I will eat pizza I need a break probably in March. Yeah, like I'll even eat pizza in May, June, July, August, September, October, November.
Just when it's your medium meal twice a week. Yeah.
Every
Okay.
day. Like, but this is like no matter what. Like, she hates sandwiches.
Wow.
I love sandwiches.
Wild.
I want to go to a sandwich place all the time. I love sandwiches.
Wild.
You have one? What's yours?
I have a couple. Hockey is, I watch.
No, my wife's super on board with sports, so I ain't gonna worry about that.
And my wife likes, we watched football last night, and we watched basketball. She likes to watch K-State basketball and baseball. She's fine with, but this is the first grade teacher in her. Maybe she cannot abide the fighting in hockey. She does not believe that that's a thing that should exist, and I don't appreciate how much of a moron it makes me sound like trying to justify the existence of fighting in hockey. There's no way to talk about it without sounding like a total meathead.
He deserved it.
They police. That's how they police the game.
Your guy needed an enforcer. He says, "Nah, you ain't gonna do that to my guy."
Right. You sound like a total meathead, and it does not make. I can't make it make sense.
No, it makes total sense in my mind.
Yes, in my mind, absolutely.
That's
but then it
kind of like me trying to explain to my wife how baseball stadiums have different dimensions. She's like, wait, what? And I said, yeah, each stadium's got a different length. She goes, that's the stupidest thing ever. And my response to that was, you are absolutely correct. I agree with her 1,000%.
She would have loved the cookie cutter era.
Like
Veteran Stadium in Three Rivers and Riverfront. She would have loved that.
It's the only sport that everything at a different spot, which to me is dumb. It's so like that's the beautiful thing about talking to someone sometimes who's not, so in depth in the sports world like we are. She goes, Jake, that makes no sense. And the more you think about it, no, it makes absolutely no sense. Like in basketball and in every other sport, it's the same outside of, like I told you, Premier League soccer doesn't play on the same distances. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, you gotta baseball parks used to just be built into the neighborhoods, and you had the space that you had, and so that's when they started building the retro ballparks. They built them in that fashion. Yeah. Like I can make that.
Sometimes you end up with the polo grounds,
but I can't make like hockey fighting. Like again, I've been watching hockey like my whole life, and I get it. And then like Abby will say, "Well, that's not how you solve problems." And
it is in this situation.
Yes, she's right. But she's wrong, but she's right. And I can't wrap it all the way around.
The sports one in our house is the NBA. And I'm not like a major NBA hoop head. But when they're on and we're not watching anything else, I'll put on an NBA game, whatever's on ESPN or TNT. She just has no interest at all. Like Abby loves college basketball. She gets really into K-State hoops and the Big 12 and everything. But the NBA just no desire at all to care about it.
Also, Abby thought Righteous Gemstones was super weird and a little off-putting.
Oh man,
and that's a bummer to me because I really like that show.
It's so good.
Season 5 of Fargo starts tonight. I'm gonna give that one a go and see if she likes that.
There, in the opposite direction, there's a lot of TV that Abby really likes that I just like. Oh, that's nice. I hope you enjoy it. I'm gonna go.
Well, the other way around is my wife likes the murder stuff, so.
Yeah,
I think every female between the ages of 28 and 38 love murder podcasts.
I draw the line at the medical shows my wife watches. Like I've gotten into like the cop shows, like the FBI's and like the 911. I'll watch with her, but like Chicago Med, anything where there's like might be blood spurting out of something during a surgery. Nope, I'm out. I'm a hard no. Like Grey's Anatomy, no, I can't do that.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from the coordinators here on 580 Sports Talk.
With you on 580 Sports Talk. The Chiefs coordinator spoke today. Different kind of week, so they have changed around the schedule a little bit. So the coordinator speaking today instead of Thursday on Thanksgiving. So let's hear from both of them. We will start with Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, and what he had to say earlier today.
Hey, Steve. Trent McDuffie had quite the game last night. I know you guys liked him when you drafted him, obviously, but are you getting maybe more in him than maybe you anticipated when you drafted him?
I don't know. I mean, listen, we had high expectations when we took him, obviously. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you'd remember better than me, Adam, but I think we move up to get Trent in that draft, right? Yeah. And I think we were all convicted on what we were getting. What I didn't realize, because at Washington, he did not play a lot inside as a nickel, but I did talk with Jimmy Lake prior to the draft. That was his college coach. And I remember him saying to me, hey, Steve, I know Trent didn't play a lot inside because they had another guy that was drafted that played some nickel. I forget his name. But Jimmy Lake said to me, Coach Lake said that he could certainly play inside this. So we always kind of had that in the back of our mind. Now, a year ago, LJ was in there more often. But because we've matched LJ quite a bit with a number one receiver, we needed somebody else to go inside, and Trent's been that guy. And listen, he has excelled in there. I mean, you're talking about a guy that plays inside, he plays outside, we blitz him. We ask him to do a lot of things. And so the first part of that is the mental. And I'm real impressed with that part of that and what he's done. And was happy to see him get a couple of sacks last night, made a good play on a ball that they tried to throw out there. He's just got some really good instincts, and that bodes well when you're playing inside like that.
The pass rush part of it, was that maybe more than what you anticipated with him?
Probably, because you never really saw it, right? But I think a lot of these guys in the secondary that have been able to, when we do bring them and create pressures, I think a lot of them have watched LJ do it in the past, and I think they ask LJ questions. LJ's got a real good feel for. You've seen it before in the past when he comes off the edge and he's got a burst, and Trent has a lot of those same qualities, just a natural knee bender. And he can make that corner. When he got that ball out, it would have been nice to come up with it. But he's got some real good instincts, and it helps him pass rush.
Hey, Coach. Speaking of LJ, I just, once again, you guys put him on an elite wide receiver in A.J. Brown, and he rose to the occasion, and he's done well against Tyreek and Justin Jefferson. Safe to say he's going to draw the assignment against Devontae Adams, and what allows him to have success against these elite guys?
Yeah, well, listen, we'll find ways to get him on Devontae. It won't be all the time, because sometimes when LJ and Trent are in there, we're okay with them going right and left. So it's not every down. I think one of the biggest thing is LJ is a physical guy. I mean, people keep talking to me about the penalties he's getting. I'm not always concerned about it. He's always working at it. He got one yesterday that he'd like to have back. Sometimes that happens when you're an aggressive press team. But I would never give that up for what he's been giving us in terms of, trying to be aggressive on a top receiver. I just think that's always good for us. And I think he does a nice job with it. The other guys do the same thing. I mean, Trent's been on those guys before, and so hasn't Josh and Jalen. So we'll keep hoping we have some success with it.
I have a follow-up on LJ. I just, in your experience here and in the NFL, just how rare is it to have so much success against guys like Jefferson and Hill and Brown? And then really, like, in the prism of, it's a lot tougher to play defense nowadays than maybe it used to be.
Yeah. In terms of the rules and whatnot they talk about. Yeah, that's a really good point, Pete. And yet LJ has found a way to be really effective. I mean, the other thing that happens, and you guys have a keen eye for this stuff, so you see it, but a lot of times LJ will be over there doing his job. It goes unnoticed because the ball doesn't get thrown over there, right? But yet he's taking a guy out that's a prime target. And, I've been fortunate in the past to have some guys, Corey Webster, when I was in New York way back, that playoff run we went on, he ended up on T.O. and I think Randy Moss, the whole thing. And then way back in Philadelphia, we used to do it a little bit with Troy Vincent. So when you have a guy like that, you certainly want to try to move him around. But again, I go back to Trent. Trent's kind of allowed us to do that with LJ because Trent's able to go inside. So, keep those guys healthy, keep them playing at a high level, and hopefully that'll help us out going forward. I can't.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I could just see a hand waving, like one of those emojis.
No, I just wanted to know, how different are the Raiders after a coaching change?
Well, listen, that's probably well documented that Antonio Pierce is a favorite of mine. I was fortunate enough to coach him in New York. I think he's doing a terrific job. I mean, I was just talking with somebody here recently. The energy in that team seems to have changed. I mean, I know what he's all about. I know how he coaches. I kind of know what he thinks, and he'll energize the team. He's done it. He's done it both with them offensively and defensively. I think they're playing at a high level. I mean, look at they played Miami 2 days ago, and we know they're a real good football team. They gave them all they could handle. So I think he's made a tremendous impact. When I spoke with him last week, I told him I was always pulling for him except for 2 games, and this will be one of them. So he doesn't have me on his side for this particular game.
And one thing about last night, I remember when we talked last week, it was trying to keep Philly out of those 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s where they could run. And you guys did a really nice job of doing that in the first half. Just wonder how much of a game changer that was for you when they got in those situations to not be able to stop that play.
Yeah. Well, we knew it was going to be, listen, their rate of success has been high on that. And we knew if we ended up in that, it'd be tough. And it was. I think they might have ended up in 3 of them. I know one was on the 1 yard line. And we didn't want to be on the 1 yard line. We needed to make a better play or a better defensive call in that particular situation. But I give them credit. I mean, they were resilient. I mean, we had played some really good downs of defensive football early, and yet they kept grinding away. And, you know, when you get in that position, you need to step your game up as a unit and hopefully slam the door a little bit. We didn't do that. They made a play, and it ended up the way that it did. But we'll move on to the next one, and I know our guys will rally around that.
So that's Steve Spagnuolo speaking earlier today. And again, a little bit of a change in the schedule for the Chiefs coordinators speaking this week. So after we heard about the defense and how good they've been, let's hear about the offense. And let's hear from offensive coordinator Matt Nagy earlier this afternoon.
You sort of knew this was going to be a season of development for a lot of your wide receivers, just given the youth. But it seems like maybe that process is going a little slower than everybody hoped. Is there reasons for that? Maybe why this group hasn't developed quite as quickly as everybody wanted? And Brad, I'll have a second question as well.
Sure. You know what, Adam, I think that, as we go through this process and we go through this year of building this offense and like we've been talking about all year, what guys do well and what their strengths and weaknesses are, we want to be able to, number one, score points, eliminate turnovers, eliminate penalties as an offense in general. And then, when the plays are there to be made, make the plays. And that's everybody. And the same thing with us as coaches when we have a chance to make good calls and practice and put these guys in good positions. We want to be able to do that. And I think, we've been dealing with a good amount of guys here that are all great players that want to do well and succeed. And when you have a game like we had last night where there might be a little bit of a magnifying glass on whether it's some of the drops or whether it's a specific play that can be a little bit bigger than others, it can definitely, be a big deal. And we understand that, and the players understand that. But in the end, we have a lot of trust in these guys and we believe in them. And I think that's very, very important. And you hear that and you see that from Pat. And it's something that we just continue to stick together and keep working through. And we know it's not going to be easy. But honestly, the biggest thing, Adam, is it goes back to, again, like, let's not beat ourselves with turnovers and penalties in the end. And drops. I know that can be a part of it as well. But there's a lot that goes into all of that. So that's a long way to say that, yes, we know we need to be better. When you lose a game, it gets magnified. When you win a game, sometimes it gets deodorized. And I think we need to understand that, hey, we have good things ahead of us, and let's just stay positive and work through these, and we'll be all right.
Okay. And I got an MVS question, not just because of the drop last night, just sort of a general lack of production from this season. I remember when he came in, Andy really thought you guys maybe could expand his game, maybe go beyond what he did in Green Bay, and that really hasn't happened. Just why hasn't it worked out for him? What's going on with him?
Well, there's things that go into that, and I think it's probably everybody's definition. I know we all look at the numbers and that sort of thing, but there is a lot at the same point in time, Adam. There's a lot that he does well that sometimes doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And, for instance, you look at the touchdown catch that Travis had that everybody's going to read about, and the touchdown pass from Pat and the catch by Kelsey. But a lot of reasons why that play worked was because of what MVS did. And sometimes that doesn't show up in the stat book. And there's other things that he does and these players do that don't show up, that we have to make sure that they get credit for behind the scenes. And so he does a lot of that, and I think that's a credit to him, and that can be very selfless at times, which we love. And then production-wise and number-wise, yeah, he's not where he was last year. And we do know that we have hopefully a bunch of season left, and we want to be able to continue to keep working through these things as we have, these different wide receivers. And I know similar to last year, but he's had a great attitude this whole time, and we just got to keep staying positive.
3 times where you had receivers behind the defense last night, and obviously the way teams have been playing you this season, that's a bit unusual. I know the last one MVS dropped, but I wonder if you could take through the first 2, one to Justin Watson, where it seemed like he was maybe running a post and Patrick threw more of a go ball, and then also the one to MVS midway through the third quarter, just what you saw in those 2 plays.
Yeah, well, the one to J-Watt, I think it was just a little bit of a landmark deal where they're just working through different releases that you can get versus the DB, and then obviously the throw, and they were just off on that. And it's just sometimes that happens again when you miss those, when you're not getting the opportunities or the shots that we're having. Those again, when you miss those, get a little bit magnified. So we understand that. We got to connect on those when we get a chance to hit those. And J-Watt, got by them, and Pat saw that, and just making sure we work on our landmarks and where we want to be. That was that one. And then the one you're talking about with Quez, are you talking about the one at the end?
No, I'm talking about the one midway through the third quarter where he's down on, I guess it's the east sideline. It looks like he's more bending on a route, a corner route towards the sideline.
Yeah. Again, there's different angles as you run these routes, and you got to give credit to the Eagles on how they play, certain routes, and it's never going to be perfect. And I think probably when you're not getting these shots that we haven't had over the years, when you do get an opportunity to take them and get them, you want to be able to connect on them, and we just didn't. And I think that's probably the easiest answer. So we just have to make sure we stick together and keep working those type of routes. And we hit one to J-Watt there when they went cover 0 by our sideline on a similar type throw, and we connected on that one. So, we're so used to seeing a lot of those connections, and I think right now these guys, the care is there, and we just got to make sure we keep working it and keep working the timing and the element of everything that goes into it.
And the last one I had was about Rashid. I mean, I know earlier in the season, I think it was the preseason where Brett said he was more of a package player to open the season as you guys were trying to get him educated on the full offense. Is he still that, or is his playing time still affected by, putting him in the strengths of what he knows right now?
Not necessarily. I think he's done a good job of being able to show us that he can do more. And taking the time throughout the week to understand certain route concepts. We know what he can do with the football in his hand. We saw that yesterday a few times, and he's a physical runner and he has strong hands. Now I think you're noticing that some of his snaps are going up slightly as far as his percentages of snaps. And we want to continue to do that. That's the part of development in the trust factor, which is real. And the more we can get of that, I think the better we will be, because he's a very good football player. And so I think you're right. He is growing, but it'll be in increments, and we like the path he's on right now.
That is Matt Nagy, Chiefs offensive coordinator, the nuts and bolts of what he had to say this afternoon in Kansas City. We'll talk more Chiefs coming up in the 4:00 hour of the show today, including specifically what can be fixed. We've spent a lot of time on, can it be done? What are the talent deficiencies? What can be overcome, etc.? Well, what are the things that from this point forward we have clear, concrete proof, or at least believe we have proof, that the Chiefs can get right and fix up? We'll also have What Is Wrong With You and Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain coming up next hour after the national and local news right here on 580 Sports Talk. 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero here with you. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon. It's feast week. We got college basketball going on all over the place out in Maui right now. UCLA taking on Chaminade. Bit of a blowout early on. It's 11-2. UCLA is about to make it 12-2 at the free throw line.
UCLA unranked, but gave Marquette quite a scare last night.
Yeah, you watched that game?
I did not.
It was a great game, and you know the image, the meme online. You've probably seen it of Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob, and everything around him is all blurry.
He's
and he
doing a
looks
double
like,
take. Yeah.
Whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
That was UCLA basketball last night. They were up 12, like 5 minutes into the second half, and they were dominating Marquette. And that's what I turned the game on. And I thought, okay, I should probably go check this out because the winner of this game is going to play KU. And from that point forward, Marquette just blitzed them. And UCLA was not prepared for all those dudes for Marquette to just take off. So now we get a top 4 matchup in the semifinals of the Maui Invitational tonight between KU and between Marquette. That game at 9:30 is the second semifinal. We've got Tennessee versus Purdue in the first semifinal. That means we have 2 top 10 matchups in the finals or in the semifinals of the Maui Invitational. The final 4 won't be this good.
Yeah, you're right. The Maui's always really good. Got a really good field, but this good? It's rare that it's this good. Were they playing? Was there a game on at like 2:30 in the morning last night?
Brother was there. The SoCal Challenge.
The SoCal, like, you tell me they're playing a basketball game at 2:30 a.m. Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, my response was, when did they bring back the Great Alaska Shootout?
Yeah.
I'm so glad they did, but when did they do it?
They play, what division was I watching? So they have multiple divisions of it. There's the surf division and the sand division. I was watching the surf is the better one. That's the high major. Well, mid-major and high major. I was watching UTEP over Cal last night. UTEP won on a buzzer-beating 3 that rolled around the rim and in. It was awesome. I tweeted about it, actually. I took a picture of my TV screen. For those of you who have ever watched a basketball game at the Birdcage, the gymnasium at Shawnee Heights High School,
yes,
that's what this gym looked like. At whatever junior college this was in San Juan Capistrano in California, that's what this looked like. Like the bleachers that have colored like letters on them, they spell letters in different colors, and they pull out from the wall, and a big open space behind the right-hand side basket. It looked like I was calling a game at the Birdcage watching it last night.
The real question about that tournament is, did the Swallows return for it?
Great question. I don't know. I could not tell you.
Are you familiar with when the Swallows come back to Capistrano?
No.
Yeah.
I am not.
Yeah, it's an old song. It's a really old song. It's like an 80-year-old song. When the Swallows come back to Capistrano.
Let's see. It was written by Leon Rene and was first recorded by the Ink Spots in May 1940. It was a tribute to the annual springtime return of the Cliff Swallows.
So obviously they did not come back if it's a springtime thing.
No, not back at the moment. They probably just left, actually.
Diehard ESPN viewers may remember former Toronto Blue Jay and Philadelphia Philly outfielder and one of the all-time great Bermanisms, still when the Swallows return to Campusano. I wonder if he'd break that back out for Luis Campusano these days.
Maybe. God.
Or did he ever do it for former journeyman catcher when the Swallows come back to Sal Fasano?
That's pretty good.
I have totally hijacked this segment.
Okay, so they do host this at a high school. I thought it was hosted at a JUCO. It is indeed hosted at a high school. J. Sarah Catholic High School. That is where they host this. So, yes.
Junipero Serra. Yeah, that's a big deal high school. They've turned out a lot of like Division I
Really?
Yeah, that's in San Diego. That's not where. No, Reggie Bush went to Helix. Your boy David Bakhtiari is a Sarah alum.
Okay.
Barry Bonds.
Okay.
Tom Brady.
The Rodman children.
Um,
Royce Lewis, former first overall pick in the MLB draft.
Current Chief Matt Dickerson.
Huh.
Jim Fregosi, a longtime major leaguer. Former big leaguer Greg Jeffries, Jeremiah Masoli, who we were just talking about on yesterday's program. Former big league pitcher and current murder suspect Dan Serafini. Google that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's where
Craig Gutfeld from Fox News.
Oh.
Also, former Major League Baseball pitcher Scott when the Swallows come back to Champerino.
All right. Might be stretching this one a little thin here.
I've never heard of this guy in my whole entire life. 40 career strikeouts.
But yeah, that was on CBS Sports Network last night after the Marquette game. I was able to watch I was thinking, damn, this is California. It's still midnight while this game is going on here.
Yeah, that boy, they really ran that late.
I love
UTEP and who?
Cal,
like Pac-12 Cal?
Yeah.
Playing in a high school gym. Well, I guess TCU did it for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So our championship game of this event coming up tomorrow is UTEP versus Bradley. Tulane Cal is the consolation game.
I'm not going to set a DVR alert for that one. I think I'll check the score on that one later.
When is the championship of the Maui tomorrow? I gotta look that one up. Hopefully KU will be playing.
Because don't they usually they don't play that? That's not the last game. Because usually they play it and then like the last game is like the 5th place game or something.
Yeah, you're right about that. So the championship game is going to be on at 4 p.m. tomorrow. So it'll be like at the first media timeout at this time tomorrow. And then, the 5th place game is on at 6.
Wild.
That's so strange.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I think we've been doing the show what year was it? I think it was Gonzaga Duke, who's the Zion year.
Yeah.
So 18.
18.
Yeah, and Gonzaga Duke was the final. And they were on while we were doing the show.
Yeah. The greatest Maui game that I can remember watching and experiencing was from the 2019 Maui KU Dayton in the championship.
Yes. Great game.
God. I'm just going to call that the national championship game.
It was so good.
I'm just going to call it the title game.
Obi Toppin, man. What a time.
It was so good. I've said this before. That is the team I feel the worst for. Of all the teams that got screwed, that KU's won a national title. Baylor's won a national title. San Diego State played for a national title. Michigan State has, that's a good program. All those other teams have had success. Dayton might never get there again.
We got resolutions, however convoluted, to all of the other major sports seasons that were interrupted or altered by COVID. Like we got an ending. However unsatisfying or satisfying, depending on your perspective, it may be, like we crowned champions. So like there's stuff to remember from like those pre-COVID times before everything shut down. But the fact that we didn't get a March Madness that year almost makes that college basketball season feel like a myth. Like it never really happened.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does. Like I remember
like Malachi Flynn and San Diego State.
Yep.
I guess they were awesome.
Peyton Pritchard in Oregon. Like I remember being on my buddy's bachelor party weekend. We were in Phoenix for spring training. We went to a bar early afternoon to grab lunch and watch KU Baylor in Waco. And I remember standing up and making a fool of myself every time Udoka Azubuike touched the ball in that game and going nuts. Like I remember it happening.
Yeah.
But it's like, did it?
Yeah, exactly.
Did it happen?
Did it happen? Yeah. Did it happen at all?
Yeah. I've clowned Texas Tech for that NCAA tournament qualifier banner they flew for 1 year.
Because you can't qualify for something that didn't happen.
But by the same token, like I absolutely would have accepted the NABC coaches championship trophy if they had given it to KU that year.
Yes.
Like, yes, hang the banner.
Well,
hang the damn banner.
Well, that's a real tangible thing, not we were going to be in the NCAA tournament if they'd had one. Yeah, so man, funny. That'll stick with me for probably forever. And I have like a real rooting interest in it like you do. So I can only imagine.
Our rooting interest is we would have gone to the Final Four.
Yes. Indianapolis. I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's only been like 6 hours since I last thought about it, so I'm getting better. Did want to get to the Chiefs here. Do you know how many games it has been since the Chiefs scored in the second half?
It was week 7 against the Chargers, the last time they scored in the second half.
And they scored once in that half? One score, I believe?
They scored in the fourth quarter. It might have been multiple scores. They put the stat up last night that the Chiefs on the season were averaging less than 6 points per game in the second half this year, and that almost doesn't even seem like a real stat. And then that number went down.
Yeah, the Chiefs scored a touchdown with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. So they have scored 7 points in the last 4 second halves total. It seems almost impossible.
That is truly, truly amazing.
So what, looking at this team, looking at the fact that they are still a good team, despite what some of the most fatalist Chiefs fans on your Twitter timeline might tell you.
Yeah, they're still 7-3, in great shape to be the 1 seed in the AFC. They are still co-favorites at all the major sports books to win the Super Bowl.
Half a game behind the Ravens, and the Ravens have a way harder schedule the rest of the way.
They did not become bad because they lost to the best team in the league by 4 points last night. Like that did not make them bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going back and I'm pulling up the last 3 games and what those second half drives have been. Against the Broncos, they only touched the ball 3 times.
Yeah, there's barely any possessions in that game.
Yeah. The turnover on downs, the pick where they didn't really have a chance, and then the game ended. Against the Dolphins, punt, fumble, punt, and they ran out the clock. And then the Eagles last night, punt, fumble, punt, turnover on downs. So, yeah, I mean, like, the success rate has been very poor. But, the turnover on downs was pretty deep in Denver territory, if I remember right, in that third quarter. They went for it on downs. And, they were at the Denver 26. But they were down 2 scores. Like, field goal wouldn't have done them any good.
Yeah.
So they were down because they were down 12. So, and they went for it on 4th and 3 and threw deep to Sky Moore. And when you throw deep to Sky Moore, usually only one thing happens and it's not good. Against the Dolphins, they had they didn't move the ball really at all. They didn't make it any further than their own 45 in that entire second half.
The stat you mentioned a moment ago, the under 7 points per second half this year. Another way to frame it, how many points have the Chiefs scored after halftime in games this season? They've played 10.
So if they played 10 games, they came in 25, like 55, 56.
53 points.
Yeah.
53 points in second halves this year. That is 300 minutes of second half football.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs have scored 53
5
points.
games.
Yeah.
If you think about that, that's 5 games worth of second halves. And it's not like you watch the first half of their game. They scored 17 points and cost themselves 7 on a bad mistake by Mahomes. And they did that against, again, a very good Eagles defense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I don't know what the difference is. If they're just, I don't know, playing Candy Crush in the locker room instead of watching film. Like, I have no idea.
Watching the Polar Express.
There's no good reason for it, right? Yeah, they got the Polar Express on TV, watching TBS movies. Lady Hawk is on again.
Guys, Happy Gilmore. So you brought up earlier in the show the example of the 2021 season when the Chiefs had actually given the ball away more through 10 games than they have this year, 20 versus 19.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a very fair point because that Chiefs team still made it to the AFC Championship game. They still were arguably the best team in the NFL that year. They came up short of a Super Bowl, obviously, but you make it to the Final Four of the entire NFL, you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
How similar do you think these teams are? Because if you look at things like turnover number and projection for getting to the playoffs and still being one of the favorites to win it all, there are some similarities there. How many parallels do you think we can draw between the two teams? And essentially what I'm asking is trying to like show the work to get to the point of, can we use that as an example of what this team can still achieve, or are they too different to use that as a guiding light?
You know what? A lot of those turnovers, like I think similarity, a lot of the turnovers for the 2021 Chiefs were interceptions. Mahomes threw 13 picks that year, which is a career high. He's already got 11 this year, but he threw 13 picks that year. And when you think back to 2021, in your head, a lot of those interceptions were tip balls, right? Felt like every game there was a ball going through somebody's hand that was getting intercepted, getting intercepted, whether it was Hill or there was one, Josh Gordon at the goal line got tipped and it bounced off of his hands and got picked off. But yeah, it was Mahomes being a little loose with the football in an uncharacteristic way. And then in the second half of the season, down the stretch, he stopped doing that so much and made some better decisions. And when you combine that with like some better luck on tip balls, then that number turns around. So I guess that's one parallel you can draw. But at the end of the day, like there is very obviously like the drives where the Chiefs score, they're not scoring by accident, right? They're not putting up their points just, oh, they got short field. This isn't like the Denver Broncos offense we're talking about, right? Where like everything's a field goal except for like the one drive per game or the two drives per game where Cortland Sutton bails out Russell Wilson and makes the greatest catch you've ever seen in your life for 40 yards or to score a touchdown on fourth down. And that's how they're scoring their points. Like the drives that are scoring drives for the Chiefs are clinical. Yeah. They're converting on third down. They're mixing the run and the pass. They're putting their players in the best position to succeed. And it just doesn't feel like they're very consistently doing that. I don't know if that's a play calling issue. I don't know if that's Mahomes or Reed or Nagy or who you blame. But it's high time, and we thought they'd do the self-scouting over the bye. And if you'd asked me after that first touchdown drive, I would have said, oh, this is going to be a monster night for this Chiefs offense. They're rolling. And it felt like that after the second drive against the Dolphins, right? When they went up 14-0 on a very, very similar style drive. And it's like they got one of those in the bag, and then when they've used it up, they don't do any of that stuff anymore. They've got to know at this point what works and definitively what does not. It does not work to set Mahomes up in the pocket and have him stand around and wait for somebody to come open on a deep over because guys don't get open on deep overs in this offense. And the tackles aren't quite good enough to keep him totally upright. Though, again, I thought there was more good than bad. Like, what, they sacked him twice last night?
I think so.
O-line gave up two. Well, one of them was the intentional grounding, so I think that goes in as a sack. I don't know.
It effectively was a sack.
Yeah. I feel like there is stuff that really works and there's stuff that doesn't, and they just need to commit to the stuff that works. And if they commit to the stuff that works more often and it's balanced and it's your yak wide receivers getting the ball in space and it's creative use of Kadarius Toney and it's Kelsey filling in the gaps where he's needed to fill in the gaps. And I feel like this offense is going to be fine. Like I'd still bet the bar is so low given how well the defense is playing that it's not going to take a sea change to comfortably clear the bar. I'm not saying that if you're a Chiefs fan this morning, or this afternoon, you're wrong to be frustrated or you're wrong to be in doubt, but the bar is so low and the ceiling with this quarterback is much higher than the bar. The smart bet is they'll get it right. And it's as simple as ball security. It might just be that simple. If they value the ball a little bit better, they're going to be in good shape.
I told Jake when we were recapping the win over the Dolphins on the YouTube channel, and I told him the reason I'm still encouraged about the offense is because their opening drive of that game was their best offensive drive of the entire season. I mean, they looked like a hot knife going right through butter. And to me, the fact that you can see that, like, we often make a big deal about, well, teams are really good on the scripted stuff early, or teams are really, for whatever reason, they can't score on that opening drive and it slows them down and then it's hard to recover from, etc. The fact that the Chiefs have the ability to call up the right plays to make things happen with their playmakers, to get easy reads from Mahomes, and that Mahomes can still make the right throw in the right situation. That's why I can't completely give up on this offense, despite the fact that there are other examples on the other, 8 to 10 drives in a game where they have struggled, but you can still see it. There are still examples. You saw it last night on the first touchdown drive. You can still see they've got that in there, but I don't know if it's focus, coaching, whatever. They haven't been able to unlock it consistently enough, but that's why I cannot give up on a team that still at times makes it look so easy moving the ball and makes it look so easy to get into the end zone. We've got to get to a break here in this 4 o'clock hour. When we come back on the other side of this timeout, we've got What Is Wrong With You, and then Michael Swain will join us later on this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you? Time on 580 Sports Talk, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to metal with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our winner from yesterday, the sloshed stowaway. What was the other word that we'd gotten from our pal Vance on YouTube?
Oh, man. What was it?
Scoused? Was that what it was?
Soused.
Soused. Yes, the soused stowaway. But it was a guy who got super plastered down in Australia and rode the grate on the bottom of a truck for several hundred miles, bouncing up and down all the way. And the driver eventually noticed, hey, what's going on over here? Stopped the truck, noticed the guy on it, offered him a spot in his cab, and then after a little while, when they couldn't converse, said, all right, I'm calling the cops. Which is really, really funny and a hilarious way to end that story. We've got two new ones today. My story is going to take us to the eastern side of Missouri, St. Louis to be specific, Dan, where 3 trespassers had to be rescued by police Thursday night after they accidentally locked themselves inside a jail cell. St. Louis Police Sergeant Charles Wall said officers responded to the medium security institution known as the Workhouse after 3 men called for 911 help there. Police helped free the men from a cell and then immediately arrested them. Usually that goes the other way. Wall said the men face possible charges for property damage, burglary, and stealing. An investigation is ongoing. The jail has sat empty for more than a year. The last inmates were moved out in May of 22 after St. Louis Mayor Tishara Jones announced they would close the prison amid allegations of inhumane conditions. A steering committee overseeing the facility's future has been tasked with narrowing down new uses for the site. A result of the community survey was released in August. They are planning to narrow down their choices even further coming up soon. But these 3 gentlemen, they wanted to go explore first. They heard, hey, the workhouse is closed. They might be getting rid of it. Let's go see what it's like inside. Let's go check out these supposedly inhumane conditions. And then they locked themselves in jail.
They locked themselves in a cell. That's so good. Hey, what do you think is going to happen? It's a jail.
Yeah, right?
You're not meant to be able to get out of there.
Hey, this is medium security, too. This isn't, super max, but it's also not exactly club fed either.
I wonder what they were doing. If it was just like for the thrill of breaking into a building, if they were intending to vandalize or loot, or maybe they're ghost hunters. And
maybe.
They were like trying to do some like ghost hunting or something like that.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of details about the guys
Don't
or
know
what they were doing.
Don't know if they were doing it like for the gram or the TikTok or whatever.
Maybe it was just for clout.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, they locked themselves in jail. Love that for them. And then to get immediately arrested. Like, we're going backwards here. Supposed to put the handcuffs on and then go into the cell, not the other way around.
For my story, we're going to Los Alamos, New Mexico, and we meet Joseph Palmer, who is the head coach of a sports team at Los Alamos Public Schools, and his assistant coaches, Bianca Enriquez and Natalie Pasalacqua. And they held a late evening sports practice at Los Alamos Public Schools, and afterwards got drunk in the parking lot.
Uh-oh.
With the sheriff.
Oh, no.
Yes, with the sheriff. Court documents say the assistant coaches were drinking inside of an SUV owned by Sheriff Jason Wardlow Herrera during a late evening practice at the school. A separate assistant coach saw alcohol inside the vehicle. The assistant coach told police that drinks were poured inside of cups belonging to the coaching staff. The assistant coach also told police that the sheriff left and returned with more booze.
Oh, no.
Bourbon, vodka, and tequila. Court documents say the group continued drinking through the night. However, court documents do not say whether the sheriff was consuming alcohol on school premises. Yeah, I bet they don't. I bet the documents don't say that. The sheriff, the head coach, and the 2 assistant coaches have been charged with consumption or possession of an alcoholic beverage on school property. Just getting lit in the sheriff's car. I have lots of questions.
Yeah.
About this.
I also do. Why is the sheriff drinking with them? That's my first one. Why are they drinking at school? But there's a lot of questions here. By the way, I did a little further research. He was the head volleyball coach.
Okay. Head volleyball coach.
Yeah. From another source, from the Los Alamos Reporter, head volleyball coach Joseph Palmer reached out to parents and players with an email that he called a follow-up to Superintendent Jennifer Guy's email regarding the events of Friday, August 18th. However, the elephant in the room remains the multiple reports of the Los Alamos Reporter, or that the Los Alamos Reporter has received from parents and players regarding the alleged use of alcohol in the gym by members of the coaching staff. So, I have a feeling that we know exactly why they're not reporting whether or not there was drinking on campus, because there definitely was.
Yes.
That's not great.
Yeah, not what you want to do.
All right, who you got for today?
This dude's locked themselves into jail.
Yeah,
and I think that advances. I think that beats our sauced stowaway.
Ooh.
They locked themselves. They broke into a jail and locked themselves in a cell.
I wish
one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of.
I wish they had just not like rescued them. Like, no, you're going to go back here anyway. Might as well stay the night.
Yeah, scare them straight.
Oh, man. That is so funny. Yeah, I'm with you. That one's so good. Locking themselves in jail. That is our new winner in What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Michael Swain joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Michael Swain from Fog.net. He covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports, and he joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, what are the Thanksgiving plans coming up this week for you and yours?
I'm going back to California to hang out with some family, which should be nice. You never know what bowl season brings you nowadays, so gonna take a little bit of advantage of getting to see some family this weekend. So head out tomorrow morning. Flight's at 5:30 in the morning, so I'm not sure if there's any sleep in my future tonight.
Are you a turkey or a ham guy on Thanksgiving?
I'm big on turkey. Not a big ham guy, period, regardless of the season.
Okay. I feel like we have trended as a society more toward accepting both. I'm a turkey guy. I like ham. I'm eating turkey on Thanksgiving. I want the traditional Thanksgiving meal. I'm very old-fashioned in that regard.
Oh, yeah, I'm right there with you. Give me, talk about this with Andy Koldernicki today, your favorite side dish. I'm big on the sweet potatoes with some marshmallow on top, some stuffing. Give me the classics.
What did he say his favorite was?
He said he likes all of them. And then we asked him, or I think Derek Johnson asked him about the sandwiches that he does. And he's like, I'm not a big leftover guy, which I thought was interesting. So he doesn't do he's not a big like next day sandwich guy, which I I think everyone is. So I was a little surprised.
I'm going to eat turkey for 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. What does he mean, no leftovers? Wow.
Exactly.
Some people don't like second day food. There's some food that I think is better as leftovers than others, but turkey is definitely one of those that's really good as a leftover.
Tell you what, that is a tax bracket I will never understand
Slop
and never
on
know
some
about.
Cranberry sauce. Let's get into it.
Michael, let's get to the football first. We'll talk some KU hoops coming up in a bit because KU's got a massive game tonight against Marquette out in Hawaii. But let's start with the football from this past weekend. With a couple days to look back on it, to reflect, to rewatch the film, what would you point to as the biggest reason why KU lost their momentum late and inevitably ended up losing the game?
Guys couldn't catch the football. It's pretty easy. It's as simple as that, right? This is a game that I think really showcased how far KU has come. This is a matchup that for the last 15 years, K-State has walked into Lawrence, or KU has gone into Manhattan and gotten worked in the trenches. And it's never really been particularly close, at least in my recollection. And I think this was kind of the first year where it felt more even, right? There were periods of the game where you felt like KU was winning in the trenches. And then there were some periods more late on in the game, I would say, where momentum was on K-State's side of things, and they really were able to control the point of attack. But for KU to be able to, against an offensive line that I think is probably the best in the Big 12, and I think K-State probably has the best player in the Big 12 in Cooper Beebe. I think he's incredible. So for KU's defensive line to, at least during portions of the game, to really slow down K-State was super impressive. But why did KU lose this game? Because Rich Miller dropped a potential pick six, got blocked on the next play on a 50-yard run that flipped the field. And then KU's defense did their job, and Trevor Wilson muffed a punt that led to K-State's game-winning touchdown. Sometimes these games you can talk about, the flow of play and everything, and it comes down to who makes the bigger mistakes. And KU made the bigger mistakes on Saturday, and as a result, they lost.
And I think that's what makes this one in particular so frustrating if you're on the KU side of things, Michael. You shared the tweet, it must have been yesterday, from Parker Fleming with his weekly how badly did we get beat, and we've talked about that before on the show, where it's success rate in every game and who had the better success rate, did they win, did they lose, what was the gap, etc. And this week it indicated that despite losing, KU more successful on a down-to-down basis than K-State was, but because of those mistakes, those two in particular among others, KU still ends up losing. I feel like, for me personally, from a fan perspective, but also if you're a KU fan in general, you look at, we have a very easy argument. We were the better team and still came out behind. I think it's a sign of how far this team has come, but also how frustrating it is to still not be able to win this one head-to-head matchup.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, man, you could say that about a couple games this year, right? For KU, right? Oklahoma State comes to mind, where KU was the better team for 50 minutes. And then the final minutes, when it really mattered, KU made the mistakes that lost them the game. It's the exact same situation here. And I look, football is interesting because, right, you play 12 times a year and all that matters are wins and losses, right? At the end of the day, it's such a result-oriented business that's what matters. But within that, right, I think you can look at trends and trend lines, and you can see that Kansas has all of a sudden put together a season in which they were competitive in every single game. Right. Even the Texas game, KU was in it for basically, a little bit under 3 quarters. Right. And there really hasn't been a game this year where KU wire to wire has been dominated. And that is a huge improvement over even last year, where there were games where KU just wasn't very competitive. So you can look at this season in different ways. Right. If you want to look at it glass half full, KU has shown so much improvement. Right. They're more physical. They've been a much more consistent team, even if they've not been consistent in all 4 quarters every game. If you want to look at it as a glass half empty, you can say that Kansas should be going into this Cincinnati game, with 9 wins and looking for a 10th win because of the way that the Kansas State and the Oklahoma State games ended. If you want to throw Texas Tech in there as well, you can do that. I'm not going to say no. So I think it's just kind of depending on how you want to look at this, right? And I think probably opposing fan bases would say, oh, well, moral victories and all that, yada, yada. Well, you know what? You can say that, but I think KU fans also can look at it big picture and see the improvement within a season like this.
We're chatting with Michael Swain from Fog.net. It's Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Go check out all of his great work covering KU. You can find it at Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. To put a bow on the prevailing storyline from a week ago, it was the quarterbacks and who's going to play. Is it going to be Ballard? Is it going to be Bean? And if it does end up being Cole Ballard, why if Bean ends up being healthy? And we talked a lot on the show yesterday about the game plan and how unbelievable Leipold and Kotelnicki and Zabrowski, the incredible job the offensive coaching staff did in putting that game plan together. And it was being lauded from all over the college football world, even though KU comes up short. To me, Michael, that was a perfect example of why you stick with the guy who practices the most. And whether you like it because Bean was healthy or not, like, you're not having that game plan with what Ballard did, with what Torrey Loughlin was doing with those option plays. That's not the kind of thing you can just throw in on Friday or Thursday before a game and say, all right, we're changing quarterbacks, changing game plan. Like, you need all week to do that. And I think this game was a perfect encapsulation of why that's the process KU always tries to follow.
Exactly, right? And we talked about it, I think, on the show last week, right? Why, if Jason Bean is doing more at practice, why will he not be the one that starts? And it's because of the early days of the week when the game plan is really being set. Hey, guys, this is what we're doing this week in practice. Here's what you need to be focusing on. And, right, Cole Ballard was the guy that did a lot of that. And I agree, right? This is a perfect encapsulation of why this coaching staff is so good and why you'll see Lance Leipold brought up for jobs, even though he's made it pretty clear, at least, so far, that he wants to stay at Kansas, and why Andy Kotelnicki is such a hot commodity in terms of an offensive coordinator. It's the ability to take trying circumstances and make the best of it, right? And I don't think every coaching staff in the country can do that, right? Lance Leipold made the good point this week. How many teams have played with 3 quarterbacks? And I'd say, man, how many teams have just played with 2 quarterbacks and continue to win football games? It's a challenging thing to do. And I think you're right. Like, the game plan was perfect. And I think the issue is, right, when you have a game plan like that, you kind of played your cards to some extent, right? And I think you saw K-State adjust in the fourth quarter and late in the third quarter and really force Cole Ballard to beat him. And KU kind of didn't have that pivot move or the next card they could play, because I think to some degree, they've played their cards and the cards were working for a long period until they were behind the 8 ball. So I think overall, right, the game plan, you can't really fault it. And I think Cole Ballard, too, did a very admirable job on Saturday.
Our guest is Michael Swain of Fog.net, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for Jayhawk Weekly, as he does every Tuesday at this time on the program. Again, Michael's works at Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. You can follow him on Twitter at mswain247. Last week, Michael, Jalen Daniels released a video on his social media in which he made it clear he would return to Kansas for the 2024 season. Obviously, there had been a lot of rumor, a lot of conjecture, a lot of message board rumbling and grumbling about Jalen Daniels since he has been out of the KU lineup. Do you know anything about how that video came to be? Was that a Jalen Daniels idea? Was that a gentle suggestion from the KU staff that, hey, it'd be good for everybody if you'd come out and say you're coming back next year, if indeed you are? What can you tell us about how that came together?
Yeah, so sometimes it's hard to know exactly, right, who kind of brings it up first, but I do know that this is something that Jalen willingly did. And I think for him, right, it's something that I don't think he wanted to do, right? You don't want to necessarily make all the attention about yourself and come out and, do something like that where, over the course of a couple of days, that's what the topic is. So on the one hand, right, I think it was one of these deals where they probably tried to wait. And then I think, certain posts from certain places, I think probably cultivated a lot more conversation and maybe a lot more just discourse about it and draw more attention to the rumors that are out there. And so I think, Jalen did it. I think KU is very pleased with the fact that he did it, right? You get that out of the way. It's not something that has to loom over the fan base. And I think generally, if that had not come out, the video, and Jason Bean had not started on Saturday, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't know if the atmosphere at Memorial Stadium would have been the same. right? As there's the worry about Jalen and then not having your second string quarterback available. So one of those things where obviously I think very good for KU that Jalen Daniels says he'll be back next year. That's huge. I know that obviously there was a lot of conjecture from all sorts of places, right? This wasn't a one person posting one thing. I mean, people on the biggest college football podcast were talking about Jalen Daniels potentially transferring. And I know that if he did, there would have been some big suitors for him. But it's big for Kansas that he's going to be back next year, because obviously you look at what they can return, and it could be another year where you're looking at the returning production numbers on offense and think, man, KU really does return a lot once again.
Let's pivot to the hardwood. Big one tonight in Honolulu as KU plays Marquette, battle of top 4 ranked teams in the Maui Invitational semifinals. KU got their steps in essentially last night in a win over Chaminade. Didn't exert themselves too much, didn't have to take down the Silver Swords. What stands out to you about tonight's matchup? What are we going to learn about KU when they go head-to-head with this Marquette team, a veteran group under Coach Shaka Smart?
Yeah, if you've listened to Bill Self, he's talked a lot about KU's defense and how they've kind of struggled on the perimeter so far. Right there, one 3-point shooting team that's going to try and light it up from beyond the arc, and they've got a mobile center, whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce because I'll butcher it, but who is incredible, right? You look at him averaging, I think, 13.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, 7 assists. Like, that's going to be a very interesting matchup for Hunter Dickinson, because we haven't really seen him like that, right? Kentucky did a lot of the small ball stuff, and he was able to kind of figure that out over the course of the game. But this is kind of a different type of matchup for KU. So this is one of those games where I think we're going to learn a lot about where KU's at just defensively on the perimeter. We know KU has great individual defenders, right? Juwan Harris, Kevin McCullough, KJ Adams. But I think trying to figure out how they're going to guard with Hunter Dickinson at center, and then also having someone like Marco Jackson, who is thinking too much right now, trying to figure it all out, or someone like Nick Timberlake, who has not been very good defensively. Like, this is going to be a game where connectivity on the perimeter is going to be huge, and I just don't know if we've seen that so far. And I think you look no further than that barrage of threes that Kentucky hit last Tuesday as a great example of that. KU cannot allow that to happen, because Marquette is a team that will make KU pay, and they've got guys that are probably more consistent and proven 3-point shooters than what Kentucky had as well. So it's going to be a really big challenge for KU, and I'm really interested to see, with kind of just a day of prep, how they're going to be able to guard Marquette, because they pose a lot of issues.
All right, Michael, we've got just about a minute left here, so I'll give you 2 quick ones. Number one, how impressive was it for KJ Adams to even play last night, let alone be an impact player in the game? Obviously, just such a sad, tragic story with the passing of his mom this past weekend. I mean, how impressed were you that he was even able to get on the floor?
Super impressed. I genuinely don't know how he did it, honestly. And that's even just from a travel perspective, man.
Yeah.
Like, you think, right, you're on a flight for most of the day. It's not necessarily an easy trip, right? This isn't going Kansas City to Dallas or Austin to Kansas City, right? This is going from Austin to an island, that's 2 time zones away. Like, it's not close. And to have the mental fortitude and just emotional resilience to go out there and play, I'm sure for him, maybe to some degree it's cathartic to play the sport you love, and that your mom loved watching you play. I'm sure that helped as well. But I'm just incredibly impressed by him, and he's just a mentally resilient guy, and I just got to give him props.
All right, real quick, KU favored by 4.5 tonight. Who you got?
I'll take KU. I think this is a game where it's going to be close, and Bill Self is just so good in close games that it's not one of those where I'll predict against it. So I think I've got KU. I posted on our message board. I'll have KU, I think, like 77-73.
You're going to give me Bill Self versus Shaka Smart. Aside from that one time, a little over a decade ago, I'm taking Bill Self. Michael Swain covers KU better than anyone. You can find all of his coverage of the Kansas Jayhawks at fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Go be a VIP. It is absolutely worth it. And, Michael, we appreciate the time as always, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
That's Michael Swain from fog.net. Awesome insight on the Kansas Jayhawks. And again, that game coming up tonight at 9:30. You can watch it on ESPN. We have to get to a break for the news. We'll come on back, lead off the final hour of the show with our 580 Sports Talk headlines here on 580 WIBW. It's the final hour of 580 Sports Talk on Tuesday, November 21st. Happy Thanksgiving week. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. We're here with you until 6 o'clock tonight. Appreciate you spending some of your afternoon hours with us today. As always, you can listen in on 580 AM across Northeast Kansas. In fact, across almost the entirety of the state of Kansas. Where were you in Missouri on Saturday driving home from Quincy when you could pick up the big stick?
You know, I never tried until I was just outside of Legends. That Varsity app they're always talking about.
It's clutch.
The Learfield folks.
Yeah.
Great app.
Yeah.
Great app. So I had that going as I drove across the CKC, the Chicago Kansas City connection.
Yeah. The
US 36 there.
Nice
highway.
Remember, it's a great highway. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful highway. I remember once when I road tripped out to Denver on Memorial Day one year that weekend. I was out near Russell and I was like, man, I'm sick of listening to music. Like, I got to find something on the radio to listen to. I was like, oh, I'll turn on the Royals on 580. And I was like, wow, it's so clear. This is so nice. I love AM radio, especially at night. It's just so great.
I think the Western reach is sometimes a little better than the Eastern reach.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends.
Less interference.
Yeah.
Fewer other stations out that way. 580 AM, 104.9 FM here in the capital city, 580WIBW.com. And of course, on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel, all the different places you can watch, listen, or interact with 580 Sports Talk. We're taking your texts throughout the rest of the show. Text line number is 785-272-9429. And again, our YouTube channel is called 580 Sports Talk. There you can hop on into the comments section. It is live throughout the show, just like us today. You can let us know your thoughts on anything we're talking about on today's program. We'll get to our headlines here in just a moment. We will also get to some more Chiefs and Eagles breakdown, and we've got some college basketball coming up tonight. Here's a fun little note for you, by the way, about the Maui Invitational. There are 5 games being played today at the Stan Sheriff Center in Hawaii. We have the 2 consolation bracket games, one of which is going on right now, UCLA up 16 on Chaminade. Those Silver Swords are kind of pesky. They kind of hang around a little bit, did with KU last night. Then we have Purdue versus Tennessee. Then the nightcap of the Maui Invitational, we've got KU taking on Marquette. And then the Rainbow Warriors play at home tonight.
Oh, that's wild.
The Bows, they're taking on Northern Arizona tonight at 8:30 local time, 12:30 p.m. Central time.
It's on TV anywhere? Team One Sports?
Probably. Yeah, it's on local Spectrum Sports, so it'll probably be on the Team One Sports app.
So I know some Colorado State alumni and fans. Colorado State wraps up their season against Hawaii on Saturday, and that is the only available broadcast is Team One Sports. And Colorado State fans, not thrilled.
No.
Not thrilled because on the mainland, the only way you can watch that game is on your phone or tablet. Like, you can't Chromecast it.
If you have an Apple TV box, like the actual physical Apple TV, you can, because that's how I use it. Because it's essentially the iPad app, but on your TV. You don't need the Apple TV Plus for it. You just need the box itself, and you can use it.
That's funny.
So I can only, when Hawaii plays, I can only watch it on the third screen, because that's what the Apple TV is plugged into.
I've watched it on my tablet before when it's been the last game going.
Yeah.
Lay in bed and watch it on my tablet.
Heck yeah. When I shouldn't say when I pull out the 3-screen setup in our living room for football weekends, all 3 TVs have a different hookup. One is just the built-in YouTube TV app on the smart TV. Then we have an Amazon Fire Stick, and then we've got the Apple TV on one. So we spread it out. 3 different providers of the various services.
There you go.
Get us to having football on TV all day long. But yeah, there's a little fun fact for you. Because I saw the list of games on tonight. I was actually on FanDuel earlier, and I saw 12:30 a.m. Who's tipping off that late? Said Hawaii. They can't be playing on the islands. Well, they are. They're going to play on the Maui Invitational Court, I guess.
Playing a reverse bye game at Hawaii Hilo.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Go play at Hawaii Pacific, maybe. All right, let's get to today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Number 1, an assistant coaching change in the NFL today that is quite literally making history. The Pittsburgh Steelers have fired known football terrorist Matt Canada as their offensive coordinator.
They pulled a South Park. They blamed Canada, and they were right to do it.
Yeah, he is the worst. I don't know if Kenny Pickett's going to be any good with someone else. He certainly wasn't any good with Matt Canada, and they needed to move on quickly because it is just awful to watch them. This is the first time the Steelers have made any in-season coaching change at any position since 1941. Burt Bell, yes, one of the forefathers of the National Football League, spent 2 games as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1941. He resigned after 2 games. That is the last time any Steelers coach was let go, resigned, or was otherwise fired in season in franchise history. It is the first time that a coordinator has been fired midseason in Steeler history. They just don't do it.
No.
It is the safest job in professional sports.
They have had uncommon stability. And it's funny that it goes all the way back because, like, the Steelers as a model NFL franchise, fairly modern concept, really kind of started with Chuck Noll in the 70s. In the 60s and prior, they were a laughingstock.
Yeah, they were awful.
And yet they still didn't, juggle coaches, change horses mid-race or however you want to put it. It's just never been a thing they've done. But it was entirely necessary. Like the Steelers offense is one of the grimmest watches in the NFL. And there are a lot of grim watches right now league-wide. Just ask Tom Brady. He'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of really grim watches. And I don't think it's all Matt Canada's fault because Kenny Pickett's pretty stinky. So there was a viral video yesterday of the Iowa Hawkeye mascot, Herky, trying to shoot the hot dog cannon into the stands at Carver Hawkeye Arena. And the hot dog, blooped out of the hot dog cannon, went 2 feet. I sent my dad that video yesterday. His response was, looks like Kenny Pickett throwing the bomb. So that's where Steeler fans are at with Kenny Pickett right now.
Yeah.
But, it was pretty clear that, if you're going to salvage something with Pickett, it isn't going to be with Matt Canada calling the plays.
So the Pittsburgh Steelers, from the year they were founded and began play, 1933 through the 1968 season, they had 13 head coaches, including multiple guys who served multiple non-consecutive terms. They had multiple Grover Clevelands in their ranks. 13 head coaches in 35 years, or 36 years, excuse me. They have now had 3 head coaches since 1969. 3.
Yeah.
The
Noel, Cowher, Tomlin, yeah.
And the shortest tenured one was Bill Cowher, who had the job for 15 years.
Yeah.
And Chuck Noll did it forever. But, Tomlin is not going to get fired unless he commits a crime.
Yeah.
Which, would you expect that to happen?
No.
No. It's just unbelievable how much stability they have. Now, they've obviously let guys go. It's not like if they hadn't fired Matt Canada, he'd be there till he died. They've let guys have their contracts expire, but they just don't fire people.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Do you know the reason why the Steelers turned it around, by the way, when they hired Noel, other than the fact that he was a great coach?
They wound up with Terry Bradshaw, too.
So they got a kickback from the NFL when the leagues merged. We talk about
the
since
NFL,
the merger,
AFL, yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. Well, they needed a couple of teams to move from the NFL/NFC to the new AFC conference because there was an uneven number of teams and they wanted even conferences. And they said, hey, we'll give you X amount of extra money if you'll jump conferences. And the Steelers were like, well, we suck and we could use the money. Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, they used that to sign a bunch of players, sign their high draft picks, and they ended up with Terry Bradshaw and Lynn Swann and Mean Joe Green, et cetera. And they essentially used that money to become the model NFL franchise.
That's wild.
Yeah, it really is.
The more you know.
Yeah, and stability, it makes a whole lot of difference when you get to the NFL.
Who were those franchises then that jumped from the old NFL to the AFC? It would have been the Steelers, the Browns, the Bengals, the Colts.
The Colts, yeah.
Yeah, just those 4?
I believe so. Would that have included the Bengals?
Yeah, they existed in the 60s. I'm reasonably certain.
Yeah. No, they were an AFL team.
Oh, that's right.
They were an AFL team.
They were an AFL team. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me do some research on the original NFC. Let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, because, teams have moved around, obviously, but like the old AFC, like the AFC South right now is Houston, who was expansion, Tennessee, who was Houston, who was an AFL team, Jacksonville, who was expansion, and who's the other AFC South team? Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Who, they were Baltimore. So they're one, and the Steelers are one, and the Browns, obviously, they weren't an original NFL team either. They came over from the AAFL.
Yeah.
Where they were the franchise, and they went over to the NFL, had some success.
So it was Browns, Colts, Steelers.
Yes, just those three.
Yeah, just those three.
How about that? Well, maybe you learned something today.
There you go.
Listening to
I
the
hope
program.
you did.
Got another NFL headline for you as we get rolling on our 5A Sports Talk headlines. The Colts released All-Pro linebacker Shaquille Leonard today.
Yeah.
Shaq Leonard's 28 years old, is recovering from 2 back surgeries. He's had nerve issues in his back. That doesn't sound great. And it's probably fair to assume that that's compromised some of the athleticism and ability that at one point made him an all-pro. But this season, he had been playing unevenly, both in terms of playing time and performance. He was not playing third down snaps and then was starting to lose his earlier down reps. And publicly expressed his disappointment in that, saying, quote, "It sucked hearing that. You're already not playing on third. You're taking the reps on second down too. So it's very heartbreaking to get that, but it is what it is." Then in a recent game, even with Zaire Franklin, who's their starting middle linebacker, out for that game, instead of Leonard getting more snaps, they went to a gentleman by the name of Segun Olubi, who I am just hearing of for the first time.
Segun Olubi.
You're telling me this for the first time, that the Colts have a player named Segun Olubi. I did not know that. I'm hearing that for the first time. So after 6 seasons, not even 6 full seasons, Shaquille Leonard being released by the Colts. Leonard posted a note to his social media that included, "This past 6 years have been nothing but incredible. I apologize for not bringing that trophy back to the 317. The energy at Lucas Oil Stadium has been nothing but amazing, and I thank you for every memory." 3-time first-team All-Pro, including 2 years ago, but wasn't on the field last year and recovering from the injuries. And the Colts deciding now to move on. And I'm not sure what the upside of that is for the Colts. I guess maybe they really want a long look at Segun Olubi. And I'm sure there's a financial piece of this as well. They're going to save, I think it's like $6 million against the cap. But I'd be surprised this is the last we hear of Shaquille Leonard. I bet he's going to land on his feet. And I wonder if there might be a contender that looks to add him this year.
So it sounded, I think it was Bill Barnwell who tweeted this earlier, that it sounded like he was probably getting cut at the end of the year anyway. And this is going to give the Colts a chance to save a little cash and to give some other guys a chance. Because, I mean, they're not a serious contender this year, obviously. Your team, so if he gets claimed, because he's on waivers, everybody, even vested veterans at this point, are on waivers at this point of the season following the trade deadline. If he gets claimed, the $6.1 million he's owed in base salary this year, that gets picked up. Whoever claims him has to assume that money. If he clears waivers, though, the Colts will pay out whatever guarantees he has, and then he can sign for any amount of money anywhere. Your team is with the most cap space in the league right now. The 49ers are at the top of that list. They got a bunch of cap space. The Browns, the Cardinals, the Bengals, the Titans, and then the Commanders come in 6th in that group. Not really any other contenders up there. I guess the Vikings have $7 million in free space. Packers have room, but they're not a real contender. Do the 49ers need some linebacker depth? Couldn't hurt.
They got so many good players. Why not add one more, right?
A team that has absolutely no cap space right now at $1.5 million, so they really have to make this work on a minimum salary and probably make another move somewhere else. Like, if you're Buffalo, why not? Right? I mean, you lost different player than Milano, but that defense has been so ravaged by injuries, and you just need playmakers on defense.
Yeah.
If I'm Buffalo, I'd make the call.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
feel like he can learn your scheme and wear the green dot if needed, that might be worth a shot for them.
Next headline for me, you mentioned Tom Brady. Can we get to this quote from yesterday?
Yeah.
Tom Brady was a guest on the Stephen A. Smith show on ESPN Plus, which is odd. If he had retired a Patriot, he never would have done this. But when he went to Tampa and started doing ads on TV for like normal products, like Doritos or whatever chip it is, and Hertz and everything, like he became a new man in the public eye. So he
also could use the money because I think he took a bath on the crypto thing. Shout out to FTX.
He's also no longer married to his like almost billionaire wife, which has changed things.
Half.
Anyway, so Tom Brady was asked about the level of play in the NFL currently, and specifically this season. And he said, quote, "I think there's a lot of mediocrity in today's NFL. I don't see the excellence that I saw in the past. I think the coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was. I don't think the schemes are as good as they were. The rules have allowed a lot of bad habits to get into the actual performance of the game. So I just think the product, in my opinion, is less than what it's been." And he went on to talk about rule changes, saying things like, quote, I look at a lot of players like Ray Lewis and Rodney Harrison, dirty player, and Ronnie Lott, and guys that impacted the game in a certain way. And every hit they would have made would have been a penalty today. You hear coaches complaining about their own player being tackled and not necessarily, well, why didn't they talk to their player about how to protect themselves? We used to work on the fundamentals of those things all the time. Now they're trying to be regulated all the time. Offensive players need to protect themselves. It's not up to a defensive player to protect an offensive player. A defensive player needs to protect himself. I think a lot of the way the rules have come into play have allowed this. You can essentially play carefree, and then if anyone hits you hard, there's a penalty. Now, there is a twinge of irony in the fact that Tom Brady is saying that. Is it tinge or twinge?
That I'm just saying you're understating it.
Yeah, just a little ironic that of all players, it's like if Peyton Manning said, you know what, they're being a little too harsh with the defensive pass interference. Oh, you think? You think, Peyton? Like, so the irony is there for sure. But a lot of people agree with a lot of what Tom Brady has said here. And I'm not necessarily opposed to like taking headhunting out of the game. That's a good thing. Yes. I think players should not want to be like Rodney Harrison, who was absolutely a good player, but a dirty player in his time. But there's probably at least some merit to what he's saying here. And I think a lot of people, at least that I've seen, have agreed with what he's saying here.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's easy to take this and just kind of wave it away as a dismissive, it's just another retired player saying, they ain't what it was when I was playing, just to try and, protect their own legacy. I mean, Tom Brady has been retired long enough, I think, to really get to do that and say, yeah, in my day, things were so much better. There is a lot of bad football being played right now. And it has not been the most compelling NFL season we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it sort of feels like it did. Like the last time I felt watching an NFL season the way I felt watching this season was back in 2017.
That's the same year I thought of.
And it just, it felt like the product was suffering. It felt like the games weren't very good. Even like the close game. Like there's a difference between a good game and a close game. Mm-hmm. Like Cleveland and Pittsburgh played a very close game that went down to a last-second field goal. Did anybody enjoy that? I sure as hell didn't. I had it on TV all day. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm not, like, coming from a place of no knowledge. I watched that game. It sucked. It was brutal. It was gross.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of bad football out there. But I think a lot of it, and I think that the dialogue about tackling and back in my day that hit would have been clean. No, you're exaggerating. Like
especially because you're Tom Brady.
Yes, and anytime anybody breathed on you, you wanted a personal foul. Mm-hmm. You wanted 15 yards, and usually you got it because you were Tom Brady. But I think the largest thing right now that is hurting the game is the quarterback play, mm-hmm. and there's no one reason. Like you like 10 different people give you 10 different answers, and there'd be a kernel of truth to every single one of them. But I just don't think you have a lot of great quarterbacks playing in the league mm-hmm. right now. And some of the good to great quarterbacks that we have grown accustomed to seeing right now, they're not playing. Aaron Rodgers is hurt. Mm-hmm. Kirk Cousins is hurt.
Joe Burrow is hurt.
Joe Burrow is hurt. Tom Brady just retired. And say what you will about Tom Brady, but he played at a level his entire career that was at bare minimum above average. And there are a lot more teams than not right now playing with subpar quarterback play. Even teams that are like making it work, winning games. Russell Wilson's been bad for the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole passing offense is either checkdowns to Samaje Perine or throw it up and
bleep it Sutton down there somewhere.
Yeah, let Cortland Sutton bail me out. Like his QBR is, I think, 30th in the league.
Yeah.
Like they're winning games, but it's in spite of the quarterback. And there are a lot of teams that have been winning games. The Steelers have won in spite of Kenny Pickett and their offense. The Browns have won in spite of whoever's been a quarterback for them. That's the biggest thing. The league is only as good as its quarterbacks. At the end of the day, the league is only as good as the guys under center, which is why, as much as we complain about the roughing the passer rules, you have to protect those guys. And you maybe have to go a little overboard in protecting those guys, because if you don't protect those guys and those guys get hurt and those guys miss Sundays, this is what you get. You get a product that's not very entertaining to watch because quarterback play stinks.
I do think a big part of it, too, is offensive line play is not good enough because there just aren't enough good offensive linemen. Like, there aren't enough good quarterbacks that every team can have one, which is, I mean, fine. I'd rather have, it fluctuates and the quarterback talent fluctuates. I get that. Offensive line play is so fragile, though. So fragile. I'll make you another Green Bay comparison. David Bakhtiari got hurt again. He's been hurt for 3 years in a row now. This is 4 years now. The Packers offensive line went from one of the 5 best in the league to now probably one of the 10 worst in the NFL with one player getting hurt. Like, it is so, if Creed Humphrey got hurt, how much does that change the offensive line for the Chiefs? Or let's take Joe Thuney, who might be the best overall lineman the Chiefs have. Let's say he gets hurt. How much does that change the Chiefs offensive line? That puts a lot more pressure on Donovan Smith because the all-pro guy's not next to him, makes things harder on Creed Humphrey because there's not a guy on his left then. I mean, it's just so fragile, and backups just aren't good enough. And I think that, and a lack of, not that coaches can't develop talent now, but I think there's a less of a willingness to, because it is such a what have you done for me now kind of business. And it is like, if you don't make the playoffs for 3 years, you're unemployed, you're out, you're done. You don't get chances after that. Hell, for a lot of guys, you don't make it in 2 years, you're out after that. So there's more of an emphasis from a lot of coaches, I think, on we've got to do anything we can to win right now. Development and the long con be damned, because I got to save my own job.
There have been 48, by my count, different starting quarterbacks in the NFL this year.
That's crazy.
Among those luminaries include like Clayton Tune, Brett Rippon,
Tommy DeVito,
38-year-old Brian Hoyer, 36-year-old Andy Dalton, who actually played pretty well in his one start. Tommy DeVito, as you mentioned, PJ Walker has started games. Tyson Bagent, Aiden O'Connell, Desmond Ritter has started 8 games.
Yeah.
Like Mac Jones and Kenny Pickett and Zach Wilson are primary starters for their team. Sam Howell leads the league in passing yards this year. Like, we are in a bit of a dry spell for quarterbacks. And I think there was a big draft class that was supposed to come in and change that. It was the COVID year class. And those guys have pretty much all been duds.
Burrow, not the year after Burrow. Yeah. So 2021.
Yeah.
So Lawrence has been fine.
Yeah.
Fields is exciting. I don't think he's good, but he's exciting. But like, Wilson is terrible. Trey Lance is a 3rd string quarterback on a 2nd team.
Mac Jones is never going to start another NFL game on purpose after this season.
He is going to run a mean enterprise, though. Like car rental place. Not like CEO of a business.
At Mac Jones Subaru of Tuscaloosa.
It's going to be right next to Nick Saban's new Mercedes dealership or whatever it is he just bought. Any other headlines for you today?
Yeah, let's get to one other headline today. It's an interesting story from women's college basketball. One of the biggest stars in the sport has not been with her team for the last 2 games. LSU star Angel Reese has not been with the Tigers on their bench in uniform for either of their last 2 games. And head coach Kim Mulkey, notoriously so forthcoming with the media, has not been willing to discuss why. After last night's home win for the Tigers over Texas Southern. Mulkey told the press, "You always have to deal with locker room issues. Sometimes you don't know about it. Sometimes you want to know more than you're entitled to know. I'm going to protect my players always. They are more important." There has been no timetable offered for Reese's return. Prior to her missing 2 games, she sat the entire second half of their win over Kent State last week and has not appeared in uniform since. The only public comment that Reese has made via social media is, "Please don't believe everything you read." Something's going on. It's very strange. LSU really good without her. They've got an incredibly loaded roster. They did lose an early season game, but they're going to be one of the best teams in the country again, with or without Reese, whose stardom kind of surpassed women's college basketball. She won the national title. She was in a pretty prominent music video. She's been on the cover of magazines. She's done some modeling. I think she did the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Like, Angel Reese is a star, like on kind of the same level that Caitlin Clark is a star for Iowa. And to have her not playing and nobody is talking about why, this is the rough equivalent of Zach Edey missing games and Matt Painter not telling us why.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a big deal in women's college basketball. And be very interesting to see where this story goes, particularly since it involves a coach who I would say is widely not beloved in Kim Mulkey.
No, I think she's incredibly easy to hate, to be completely honest with you.
Maybe I'm too online, and maybe there is a portion of the offline audience or a different portion of the online audience that I don't always interact with that loves Kim Mulkey. I don't know. That's not anything that I've encountered.
I think some people do because she's a winner, and some people, are win at all costs kind of people. I saw someone today say, well, Bill Belichick has won a ton, and people don't talk about him this way, and he's awful to the media. Well, one, people say bad things about Bill Belichick and his media prowess all the time. But two, Bill Belichick is not nearly as confrontational with reporters as Kim Mulkey. Like, she is very clearly holding disdain or some sort of hatred toward like the concept of people reporting on her basketball team. Belichick just kind of blows you off, which is bad for a different reason. But I don't know. I find her to be very unlikable, but she's good at her job. I just, like, between the confrontations with reporters, between the fact that the greatest player she ever coached, she could not give a single damn about and I'm not trying to get into the political stuff with the Brittany Griner thing. I'm just saying, like, she could have even said, like, I hope she gets home safely, and she couldn't even do that.
Yeah, like, couldn't even say, like, I hope she's okay.
And again,
we're
beyond the political part of that. I'm just saying it's weird that someone who not made her career, but won you a national championship pretty much on her own. Yeah. Like,
typically coaches have better relationships with their players than it seems like she does. And it seems like there are certain kind of players that notably do not have good relationships with her. And that follows a pattern.
Yeah.
So, interesting story developing there with LSU women's basketball.
With that, let's get to a quick timeout. We'll come on back. We'll talk some more Chiefs and Eagles here on 580 Sports Talk. 537 on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Which is higher? I love these questions. Which is a higher number? The number of times that Patrick Mahomes has passed for over 400 yards this season, or the number of times the Pittsburgh Steelers had 400 or more yards total in 44 games under Matt Canada?
I think Mahomes has one 400-yard game this year.
424 yards.
And I'm going to say they had to have gotten there once under Matt Canada. No. Oh, no.
0. The Pittsburgh Steelers did not have a single game with over 400 yards of total offense in 44 under Matt Canada.
Holy cow.
Here you go. The Steelers had 0 games of 400 plus yards, 1 game of 300 plus passing yards. They scored 30 points twice in 44 games.
Yuck.
7 games with 2+ passing touchdowns and 27 games with 20 or fewer first downs.
Disgusting. I'm offended.
He's a football terrorist.
Yeah.
I do not say that lightly. It does not make me feel good to say it, but it is the truth.
Well, those numbers would still be upgrades on what the Chiefs have done in the second half of their last 3 football games, which is to score 0 and 0 and 0. And it begs this question. I don't remember who it was. I think it was some fantasy football guy. And fantasy football guy generally has not great takes, just not always true.
Weird internet subculture, the fantasy guys.
People who see the league strictly through the fantasy lens have some very strange takes.
Yes.
That only make sense if that's the way you see the league too. But not everybody. That's not how most people view the NFL. But I saw this tweet and it really kind of stopped me in my tracks. Are the Chiefs fun to watch? Because I don't know that they're very fun to watch right now. They are certainly not fun to watch in the way that they were in 2018 and 2019.
Right.
And fun to watch and playing winning football are not necessarily mutually inclusive, of course.
Yeah, ask the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Right. Like you can win and play kind of gross, beat you up kind of football. Like I would submit that the Seattle Seahawks, some of their Legion of Boom era games were very difficult to watch, but they won because they would overwhelm you on defense and do just enough on offense. And that's kind of been what the Chiefs have done here in the last month and change. And that's not really that much fun to watch. Like last night, I would have, as recently as 3-4 weeks ago, said, oh, Chiefs are definitely winning this game. You left Mahomes too much time. You left Mahomes too much time. We've seen it so many times in Patrick Mahomes' tenure as the Chiefs quarterback that even a sliver of time is all he needs to go down and put together the game tying or the game winning drive. And I didn't really feel like they were going to do it last night.
Yeah. And that was the first time it sort of felt like, I don't know if this is going to happen. Because generally it's, it's over.
And it's got nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes, who made 2 of the best throws that any quarterback has made all season on the final Chiefs drive of the game.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not that I lack confidence in the driver because Mahomes is the driver. And it's not so much that I lack confidence in the mechanic because in this tortured analogy, the mechanic is Andy Reid.
Right.
I just wonder about the parts. I just wonder if the tires are going to hold up. I just wonder if they budgeted their fuel correctly. I just wonder if the engine's going to hold up. This is our guy Vance on the YouTube comments would be able to tell me if that's a good NASCAR analogy or not. It probably isn't. But that's
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at with the Chiefs right now. Like I think long haul, they'll figure it out. I still think that. I think that is more likely than not that the Chiefs will look like at least a reasonable facsimile of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But right now, right this second, it's hard to have that level of faith. And it makes them a little bit less exciting to watch because you know, offense is fireworks. And these fireworks are like, I mean, Chiefs got like some sparklers. They got those little cans that shoot up the little flames in the middle of the street. They're not the big booms. They're not the M80s.
There are different ways to be a fun team to watch. Like, I think my favorite team can be, not as a fan, they're not fun to watch as a fan at all, but like from an outside perspective, their defense gives up a ton of points. So the games are, for today's NFL, relatively high scoring, and they score a lot in the second half to keep games close. Often with a lot of deep balls, some of which are caught, some of which lead to pass interference. Like, they're fun bad. They're bad, but they're like kind of a fun bad. The Cardinals are kind of a fun bad. Like, they're not going to win, but they throw the ball all over the place, and they've got guys who are fast and shifty and give up a bunch of points. Like, they're kind of a fun bad. Then you've got the Dolphins, who are actually good and fun to watch. But then you get the teams that, like, they won, they're good, but like I didn't feel satisfied watching them win, and that's kind of where the Chiefs are.
I would say the only teams that I like as a neutral fan like to watch are Detroit, Miami, and maybe Houston gets there, and like San Francisco when they're healthy. But I hate them, so like I don't like to watch, but they are like objectively a pretty entertaining watch. Yeah, the Chiefs are just kind of a bummer right now offensively. And because that's so out of character, it's made them just a little less fun. I don't feel like, 7-3 still an objectively excellent record, and they're still in a very good position to achieve all the things that they want to achieve. But it just hasn't felt like this has been as enjoyable a 10-game stretch as we have had with the Chiefs in recent years.
No, I get that. 100%. It's because you expect more, right? Like, you expect this team. Like, if you're a Pittsburgh fan, you expect your games to be miserable. Like, yeah, okay. Wow, Kenny Pickett threw for 8 yards on that play. Like, cool. Like, that's an improvement. But for the Chiefs, you expect more. You expect high flying. You expect lots of points. You expect receivers who are going to make plays, and it's just not there. And, expectations are a hell of a drug because there's more to football than what you think a team is going to be in August, but those things die hard.
There is a broader truth to the idea that nothing is more miserable than watching a team with high expectations.
Yeah.
Because if you have the high expectations, anything short of comfortable victory feels excruciating.
Yes.
Like, Eagles fans last night were posting the old classic meme where it's the team logo and there are 3 brackets beneath it, because the team logo represents like the length of a game. And the first bracket is before the game and before the logo, and it says, "Boy, I can't wait to watch my favorite team play." And then the second bracket is about 4/5 of the team logo, and it says, "I'm going to kill myself." And the final bracket is the very end, representing the end of the game, and it says, "Nice, we won." And the Eagles are 9-1, and their fans are using that graphic. That was a graphic I first saw in its initial iteration, I believe, with the Seahawks logo. I have also seen a version of it with the Chiefs logo. I have also seen a version of it with the Royals logo, where there is no third bracket, which is a little much. But so like that's the hard part of having high expectation, is you endure it more than you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And the style in which the Chiefs are winning games right now, they're hanging on for dear life in the second half because they literally can't score. Like, yeah, it makes it kind of excruciating if you've got a rooting interest.
Let's get to a quick break. We'll come on back, get you some picks for the Maui Invitational tonight, KU versus Marquette. That's up next on 580 Sports Talk. All right, K-State fans, you've been waiting. Jake teased it earlier in the show. Right now, in my hands, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see them in my hands. I've got 2 tickets to the final K-State regular season football game of the year. It is the home finale. It is Farmageddon coming up this weekend at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. 2 seats, great seats, by the way, right next to each other. We're going to go with caller number 3. Caller number 3 to 785-272-9429. These tickets are yours. You can either come pick them up at the station tomorrow, or we can have these sent to you. We can scan them to you. So we need to get your email address. Caller number 3, 785-272-9429. And the pair of tickets to the bill can be yours. I know we made you guys wait for a while, but thank you for sticking it out with us. And someone is going to be rewarded handsomely with a pair of tickets to Farmageddon. We've got the Maui Invitational semifinals coming up tonight. The consolation bracket games, going on right now. Had a big sip of water right before we came back from commercial break. The consolation bracket games going on right now. UCLA is thumping Chaminade 72-44. This has gotten down to a 12-point game at one point in the second half, but UCLA now running away with it against the Silver Swords. So the actual semifinals coming up tonight, I think Purdue is going to get Tennessee. Rick Barnes. I mean, the game does mean something or other, and I'm going to pick against Rick Barnes because I just find a lot of joy in betting against Rick Barnes. KU versus Marquette. I'm going to take KU in this one. I think it's going to be a fairly close game. I like this Marquette team a lot. I don't love their head coach. In case you don't know, it's Shaka Smart. But I think Tyler Kolek is a really good player. I know he's been dealing with a little bit of a bum ankle for the last couple of games, but I think he will be better in this game coming up tonight than he was in their opener against UCLA last night. I think he's going to be pretty good. So it's going to come down to defense, I think, for KU more than anything. So you're looking for DeJuan Harris, who will probably be matched up on Kolek a lot in this game. And you're looking for Kevin McCullough to be great on the defensive end. He has been unbelievable the last couple of games. He's racked up a triple-double in each of the last 2 games. Do you know how hard it is to get a triple-double in college basketball? Let alone in back-to-back games. It's only happened 7 times in college basketball history. Kevin McCullough in the last 2 games against Chaminade and Kentucky has doubled KU's all-time official triple-double count. Wilt Chamberlain probably had some, but those are unofficial still. That is how good he has been. He's got to be great on the defensive side of the ball, I think, today. Rebounding, defending, on the ball, off the ball, because Marquette's got a lot of different weapons that can attack you, a lot of different guys who are good on the glass underneath the basket. So you're going to need, I think, Kevin McCullough to be huge defensively in this game more than offensively. I think it's going to be a bigger struggle for Hunter Dickinson. Not that he's going to have a bad game, but a little bit more mobility, certainly better athletes down low, a little bit better size for Marquette than KU has faced over the course of this season. So I like KU. I think it's going to be a high-scoring, close game. Give me the Jayhawks 80-77 tonight.
What's the spread? 3.5?
4.5.
4.5. Okay.
So yeah, I guess I've got Marquette.
Yeah, you got
covering
Marquette to cover. Yeah. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think most games have tended to be high-scoring here early this season. And I also think the point guard matchup is the most fascinating one. Tyler Kolek and DeJuan Harris, we're seeing 2 of the nation's best going head-to-head tonight, and that's a treat. And so that is something I am very much looking forward to see. I think KU wins. I think Self versus Shaka is an advantage for Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also getting to sleepwalk your way to a round 1 win is probably an advantage over having had to rally back to win by 2 on a 3-pointer with 30 seconds left last night. So I think there's an advantage, a mental advantage that Kansas might have as well. Maybe not. Maybe that plays the other way, but I do think Kansas wins tonight. Congratulations to Rod, our winner of the K-State tickets.
Shout out Rod. Enjoy the game coming up on Saturday. Farmageddon, K-State versus Iowa State. We've got to get to one final break. We'll take a timeout. Come on back. Wrap things up with the final word right here on 580 Sports Talk. the final word real quick. You want to talk about some good college basketball? The Washburn women on fire against William Jewell today over at Lee Arena. Got a doubleheader, Washburn women's and men's basketball. The women in action right now. The men taking on Ottawa will follow. You can listen to all that action over on Country 106.9 right now. All right, Dan, final word.
Final word for me is that the Chiefs are going to be fine probably, but probably is not a modifier I would have used before the nature of last night's win or last night's loss for the Chiefs. They have got to solve their second half offensive woes. They have got to put their wide receivers that they have in positions for them to succeed individually within the structure of offense. There is a great team there for the Chiefs. One that I think could be the greatest of them all in the AFC this year and maybe in the NFL. But if they're going to get to it, they got to get unstuck on offense.
My final thought for the Chiefs today and my final word is that I feel like this team needs to be more open to using players who are not wide receivers to go catch the ball. Where is the screen game? Isaiah Pacheco can catch the ball out of the backfield. We know Jerick McKinnon can. Noah Gray is capable. Hell, throw it to Blake Bell more often. Just get some other guys involved in here. Try to find any sort of way to develop a little bit more momentum offensively. Then maybe you can take a little pressure off the guys who are clearly pressing right now in that wide receiver room. That does it for 580 Sports Talk today. Coming up tomorrow, it's just me. It's just going to be yours truly on the show.
I'm leaving for vacation, so I'll be back on Monday. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. We've got a full list of guests coming up tomorrow, so we'll talk to you at 2 o'clock. For Jake LeBon, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Brzezinski. That's coming up tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk.